Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Thursday. Whatever. Where are we? What year is it? It's January the 16th, 2025. It's another Technical Alpha podcast. Glad you could join us today. If I could only find the menu that I'm looking for. There we go. We found it. We got there. Another great show lined up for you today. Glad you could join us. Oh, we were on the end screen? Oh, and oh my God, everything's falling apart. So my camera's not, we were on the end screen. Let's just highlight this for those who are listening in the RSS feed at home, okay? I started on the end screen. Not the starting soon screen, but the end screen. Then, my camera is not on. And for some reason, you guys are seeing the wrong screen for where Jeff's camera should be, which means you're just seeing a blank desktop at the moment in his square. Everything working as intended. And so, while I figure that out, I will say this. Thank you for joining us on another wonderful Thursday. Before we get started, Mr. Black, the most important question of the week, and ideally, an answer that will last long enough for me to sort out these problems. How was your week?
It's been a week. I've been trying to close on or firm up on this apartment building, and some stuff came up, so it's gonna take a lot longer than what I anticipated. So hasn't been so much fun, but outside of that, I've been playing some Starcraft. For those been watching my stream over the last few days. I didn't stream today, but yeah, the last 3 or 4 days played some Starcraft, streamed it on Lag TV. Yeah, pretty much all warmed up. I mean, I wanted to play anyway just to kind of get a feel of the new patch for casting purposes, and I get these bugs that I just want to play Starcraft, so yeah, I'm not done with that journey yet, so we'll keep playing, try to keep improving a little bit, but that's been pretty much my week. It's been okay. Some downs, some ups.
Great.
Yeah.
You did just enough time for me to solve all of our technical problems on the live stream. Perfect. Well handled. Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, I've been doing offline stuff. Obviously, as you've seen, I've taken the time to hang out while you're on the grind on StarCraft again, and it's the first. It couldn't be any more perfect as far as I'm concerned, because I remember the first or second stream that I stopped in and was there for a long while, and not just there just to quickly pop in. The first chat messages that I saw immediately were like 2 or 3 usernames, first time chatters. Every single one of them had SC2 in their name. It's a thing. I don't know why. It's been this way for years too, but people who are involved in the StarCraft community, whether they are content creators or not, their names have to have SC2 in them. It's this weird, it's kind of like when you play an online game now when you see TTV in everyone's name.
Yeah.
It's like the same kind of fucking concept where they all have to have SC2 in their names. It's just funny to see that's still a thing in 2025. And then immediately racism. Those were the two. I had to ban somebody in the first 45 seconds of being in job. I was like, man, you can't be serious. Come on, bro. How many people are even still playing this game? You tell me that a large proportion of people still playing StarCraft are racist. Come on, bro. There's only 4 people on the ladder.
It might be a little bit of a shock to see, like, a black guy just playing StarCraft. You know what I mean? It might be just like you pop in to go watch some StarCraft. You're like, whoa, shit, this dude's black. Let me say something. I don't know what it is.
It's just so it's just like, my God, it really is 2013 all over again, for sure. The more things,
but it's been
change,
chill, man. It's been
more
good.
they stay the same. No, it generally speaking, obviously,
StarCraft community is dope. There's always bad apples in any
It was just
community,
so funny.
but,
It was just for me because the first 45 seconds I was in the stream, that was what my experience was. It's like, oh my God. But it's true in general. No, everyone's been great, and it's true the majority of the people still in StarCraft at this point, because they almost by necessity, they're all pretty chill at this point. Everyone's just in it for the love of the game, which is always great. But yeah, I mean, my week has just been another week as well. Nothing crazy. I didn't stream a lot this week. I had some stuff that I had to do offline that kept me preoccupied and out of the office for a good chunk of time. And then when I was in the office, I was just kind of oftentimes fiddling with shit. I just had one of those weeks, dude, where I was just like, I haven't, it's not like I was grinding super hard in the last couple weeks, but it still felt like I was burned out. I don't know why, but I just felt burned out. There's no real reason. It's not like I was putting in like an 80-hour week or anything crazy. I just felt burnt out, and it was the kind of burnt out where if you go online, I'm sure as a streamer you would know this, when you are a type of burned out feeling or tired or irritable, that you can go on and still stream and things will stay on the rails. And then when you get into a spot where if you go live, things will go off the rails almost immediately. I was in the mind space and the body burnout of feeling that if I go live, shit's gonna go off the rails almost immediately.
It's the after holidays effect, man. I'm telling you, it's a real thing. Is that what it is? It's a real thing, man. I've been feeling it too. Like probably maybe not to that extreme, but I've been kind of feeling a little meh. There's been a couple of times this week where I just woke up. I just literally said out loud, like, I don't feel like adulting today. Like, I just don't want to. I just don't want to do. I don't want to do anything. I just want to fucking watch TV or watch movies and just eat food and do nothing. That's pretty much that.
I fucking hate that feeling too, because at the end of the day, if I actually listen to it and I don't do anything, I feel worse at the end of the fucking day.
100%. 100%. Because then now you've wasted a day and now you're beating yourself up over like doing nothing. I can relate to that. I think it has to do with the new year. You go, because December's a wild month, man. It's like end of the year shit is busy as fuck. We had some shit weather. You got to travel around, see family, do this, do that, fucking Christmas this. Then you've got Boxing Day, then you've got New Year's, then you've got then you're in the new year, and then everything is just kind of out of whack. Then it's nonstop. It's nonstop. So I mean,
it's true. It's just a fucking it's true. I hate the feeling. Some of it too is I've just been exhausted. We talked about this before, but M has been on this streak now for like 2 months.
Oh yeah,
of just sleeping horribly. And like she's sleeping just barely well enough to function at work, but she's been snoring a lot more and restless, like really restless. Now we have a huge bed and she's a tiny person. So when I say she's restless enough to wake me up, I mean, you got to understand, there is some gymnastics involved in being able to bother me on my side. Cause I'm one of those guys, I don't know if you're the same. When I sleep, I don't move. I'm on the edge of the bed. Basically, I have a massive bed, but I'm still on the edge of it. Yeah. And I go to sleep and I wake up essentially almost in the exact position in which I go to sleep. Sometimes on my side. Maybe I'm rolled over on my side at best. M is doing fucking like judo and shit in her sleep and snoring like fucking crazy. And she's always been like a light snorer, but recently, holy fuck. Just Sawing wood, bud. Fucking sounding like she's in a construction site and shit. And normally I'm a heavy sleeper, but my problem is the falling asleep part. Once I'm asleep,
Yeah.
unless she's kicking me, which is what's happening, that's different. But when it comes to snoring, if I'm asleep, that like almost never wakes me up. It has to be something fierce. But my problem is she falls asleep in 4.5 milliseconds. She closes her eyes and
Gone.
she's already dreaming.
I'm the same.
Like,
I'm pretty much the same way. The problem
really?
for me, because like usually I'm pretty tired and I take edibles. So like,
oh yes, you're just fucked.
I'm ready to go, right? And I mean, it's not immediate. So like, I'll get into bed. I'm usually in bed around 8 p.m. each night, like laying in bed. And then Kayla and I, we get about hour and a half, 2 hours tops, but it's usually about an hour and a half. It's like an episode and a half of something before I start to nod off. But basically, like when I'm ready to go, it's usually by 10 p.m., 11 p.m. max. I mean, if I'm at 11 p.m. now, I'm telling myself, go to sleep. I'll close my eyes and I'm out within, 3 minutes. Like I'm gone. My problem is I'm a super light sleeper. Okay. And I wake up to anything and I have a hard time falling back asleep. That's my issue. This is not the initial sleep. If I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, like the dog is like getting up and restless or whatever, I'm fucked now. Or if Kai's coughing or whatever, I'm fucked. So I wish I kind of had your ability to, be out cold. But dude, if I was beside your wife and she was making that noise, or say Kayla was snoring the way she is, I'd have to sleep in the other room. I'd have to be in the guest room. There's just no way.
What happened was I told her this, actually. She feels bad because I'm like, what the fuck is she going to do?
Of course, but I mean, there's not much you can do about it.
She's asleep. It's not like she's intentionally in her sleep fucking punching me in the balls and shit. It's not like, some sort of like mental, like I'm making a choice to fuck up my husband's sleep. But like I said to her, because in the last probably a month, really, because it took a while for me to really get fucked up on it, but I said, I'm not even joking, I have been a zombie for a hot minute now. Like day-to-day basis, I'm like on sleep drunk, like a functioning alcoholic. Like I can get through a day, but I ain't all there. Like if you actually sat down and asked me to have like an honest to God conversation, it would take about 14 seconds for you to realize that I'm completely on autopilot and I've said the same 4 sentences 3 times in the last 5 seconds. It's shit's bad.
Well, that might be the reason why you've been feeling fucking pretty burnt, bro. Sleep is probably a big part of this.
Yeah, it started like at first I was just tired, but now I'm like, and you've also, I know you've been in this position before because I know you've had, and both of us have had over the years anxiety crop up once in a while. But for me, it's not that I'm having anxiety issues, but I feel like the fight or flight burn on, like your adrenaline anxious on the other end, like like I'm tired, but I feel like I just had an adrenaline rush for 17 straight hours, and now I'm on the come down. That's what I felt like for like 2 months now, and so my mood is fucked. I'm just like, nah. And I'm trying so hard to like not get upset with her over small stuff and shit because I'm just fucking wired. I slept the other day. I went back to bed and I slept and I meant to have like an hour nap and I was gone. Bro, I woke up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, and I was like, oh, fuck. So that's kind of where I've been at. But that's a long-winded way of saying that M this week finally agreed. She had been trying mouth tape at first, which did like an okay job. But I don't like the idea of mouth tape because if you are breathing through your mouth, typically it's because your body's not getting enough air through your nose, and you're breathing through your mouth for a reason. So she suggested the mouth tape at first, and I was like, I know everyone on social media is like, mouth tape, mouth breathing, bad, but like, you're doing it for a reason. It's because you're not getting enough air in your nose. So I said, why don't you try, like, Breathe Right nasal strips, the one that opens your fucking nose up, and see if that improves. Because she doesn't have a deviated septum or some other shit like that.
No.
She's Asian,
but it would open
she
it
has
up.
a small nose. That's like 90% of the problem here. So she tried it for the first time, not last night before. And then she did it without last night to compare. And she said yesterday she felt more rested than she did today. and she's been using like her phone to track her sleep, and it will record when it starts to hear her snore. So she didn't believe me when I told her, because she'd always ask me, "How did you sleep last night?" And I'm like, "Good,
honey,
great." Except you
good
snored
enough.
like crazy, and she was like, "Oh, you're just making it up. It's because you went to bed late." I'm like, "Well, I did, but that's not really the reason."
No.
But now she believes me because her phone has her actually caught in 4K. Now she has to believe me. So she put the strips on. So I think that's what she's going to try next, and hopefully we'll know in another couple weeks. But if I start to sleep well, I'm not going to know what to do with all the energy, bro. I'm going to be bouncing off the walls and shit. But anyway, that's a lot of conversation to roll in, which is good because we didn't have too much news, but we do have to talk a little bit, Mr. Black, because something did happen today, mere hours ago. The Nintendo Switch 2. Nintendo said, listen, we're already prepping our lawyers for all of the endless leaks for this bitch that came out in the last couple of fucking weeks. But we got to get on top of this shit. It's getting out of control. People are we're not even gonna have the element of surprise anymore. So they didn't even bother trying. They just put that fucking video up on YouTube and said, figure it out. And of course, because Nintendo, as soon as a couple people saw the video, everyone has now seen the video. They don't need to promote their shit. It's the Nintendo Switch 2.
Yeah.
So did you see that little short video by any chance yet today? Did you catch that?
No, I didn't, but I'll watch it real quick while you...
Yeah, while I talk about it, you can watch it because you'll probably just see what's going on. And
I may have seen it because I was seeing a bunch of leak stuff that was happening. Yeah,
it's not very long.
Nintendo Switch 2. Where's this at? It's just on Twitter.
You'd be able to find it on Twitter.
Oh, it's like 2 minutes long.
YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm watching it now. Oh, it's like 2 minutes.
Yeah. Super quick.
I didn't see this.
Yeah. So they dropped that earlier today. And they didn't really announce it other than just posting on social media or whatever. I mean, there's not a lot to glean from it. We can see the form factor. We can see the changes physically. They don't go into great detail about it, but I'll go over some things that Mr. Black is looking at right now. And if you haven't watched it at home, like Jeff said, it's about a 2-minute video. It's pretty easy to check if you want to see it, but you're not going to be seeing, it's not like you're going to be seeing, some sort of crazy revelation. It's a very similar thing. So... as expected, they kept the form factor. Big shocker on that. I think the Switch is basically the closest thing to a perfect form factor for Nintendo specifically they've ever had. So not surprising that they kept the general form factor. It's significantly larger, as Mr. Black would have seen by now, both in terms of the body, the screen size, and the Joy-Cons themselves to, of course, scale up to match that screen size. Blessing for somebody with hands larger than a Japanese toddler, which is basically the only person that could functionally use the Joy-Cons on the first Switch, because holy fuck, what the hell was that? They were tiny. So they've gotten all bigger. They've changed from, as Mr. Black would have also probably seen by now, sliding the Joy-Cons in. They no longer do that. They clip into the sides. Instead, they have kind of like a USB almost socketed thing that's recessed into the controller that then plugs in to the sides and presumably would be magnets as well to help hold them in place once they've clipped in on the sides. That's probably... I don't know how I feel about that part, because I know people complained about the slide-in ones breaking. I couldn't fucking fathom how you could possibly break those short of dropping the Switch, which is just whatever. I'm actually concerned about this method because you can see inside the connector is literally like an unprotected USB, like PCB board piece that comes out, and they probably have a cover, I think you see later in the video as well, that will cover that up. But I'm thinking about kids with this shit, bro. And you got a flimsy fucking little part that's flapping in the breeze in there, and it feels like a way for shit to go wrong. But it probably won't go any more wrong than the slide-in ones, and I'm sure lots of people are excited to no longer have to like slide those things in or guess which side it's on.
That piece that's sticking out, it doesn't go above the actual frame of
it's recessed. Yeah.
So like
it should be fine. I just fine. Like children find a way. You got one. They find a way. Although with that it would be more likely than throwing the thing across the room.
Yeah, my son hasn't broken any, knock on wood, but he plays the Switch every day.
True.
Every day.
True.
we've had no issues. Now we've had broken Joy-Cons, but that's
just a function of the console.
That's just
itself.
a function of the console. Yeah.
Yeah. So they also updated the dock, as you would have seen there, Mr. Black. It's a little bit more sleek, a little sexier looking, a little less bulky. Went on the Jenny Craig diet, or for all of you Zoomers out there, on the Ozempic. And whittled that down a bit. I think functionally it will be identical. I mean, it's just all it's doing is it's just passing HDMI through the USB port out to an HDMI connector to the TV. We'll probably also, just like the original, have connectors for USB input or something like that. I'm sure will likely be part of it as well. But we don't get like a crazy close-up view of it or anything. We just see that the dock is still a thing. We also see briefly, if you pay close enough attention while they're doing close-ups of the Joy-Cons, there's an extra button on the Joy-Cons kind of below the home button. We don't get to see that in action. We have no idea what it actually does as of yet. We just know that there's an extra button. We'll have to wait and find out what that button actually does, but for now we don't know. Curiously, and I'm sure you noticed this as well, Mr. Black, at some point in that video, they show the Joy-Cons kind of mimicking a mouse for a computer. And I doubt that was just for fun. I have in my notes, it's clearly not designed to function like a traditional mouse, but when I watch the video again, it still kind of looks like they want you to associate it like you are going to use it like a traditional mouse, as if they give you like as if the part that clips to the bottom to protect the USB doubles as like a skate for the controller to be used like a mouse, and then maybe you're just using one of the face buttons as left, right mouse button or some shit as well. My first thought was, well, maybe they're just going to use it like, you know, on your LG TVs, for example, these remotes, where it's like a motion pointer. And maybe they'd have that where on the screen, it's just becoming a pointer with the Joy-Con, but they already kind of have that as is. So if they are doing a functional mouse, that's got to be the most scuffed fucking experience. I'd love to know what exactly that's going to end up looking like if that's the case. But they did make it seem like that's legitimate functionality. So that would be an interesting thing to see how they're going to tackle that if that is the case. And this is perhaps the biggest news of all, Mr. Black, because everyone knew Switch 2 was coming. But the most important news is that finally, Mario Kart 8 can retire and go off into greener pastures and fucking relax and stop carrying the Switch as it has been for longer than the Switch has been alive, by the way. Let's remind everyone that Mario Kart 8 is actually a Wii U game that was repurposed for the Switch and then deluxeified 46,000 times on the Nintendo Switch. And it's finally being put out to pasture at some point for what looks to be Mario Kart 9. And of course, lots of people are spending as much time or more dissecting the Mario Kart portion of this trailer for the Switch 2 than they are the actual console, noticing things like the number of like positions at the starting line to see how many racers will probably be available in any given race, things of that nature. But in general, I'm just excited to hear that Mario Kart 8 can finally fuck off. That poor bastard's been dragged through the mud for so long. Not that it hasn't stopped selling. That thing has been in the top, like, whatever fucking sales charts for longer than some Switch players have been alive. The shit has been there for an eternity. And so they got their money's worth out of that and then some at this point. And it will be fun to see what they do with Mario Kart 9. Because really, I would say, and I don't know, you've probably played a fair amount of Mario Kart 8 yourself, off and on. How do you improve the Mario Kart 8 formula? Because that, like, if in my mind, when I played Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I'm thinking in my head, this is just about as min-maxed as the Mario Kart formula could feasibly get, from like a gameplay perspective anyway. Obviously visually or performance-wise, and even then it ran and looked fine. So I have no idea what they're going to do, but they're Nintendo. And they're really good at figuring out little incremental ways of making some of their games like Mario Kart or Mario Party a little bit better each time. So we'll have to wait and see more about that. As you can imagine, and as you would have seen at the end there, Mr. Black, they do mention backwards compatibility. We discussed that as a possibility here on the podcast, and we were theory crafting before. It would make sense, of course, given how many Switches they've sold already to be able to still use those games, and apparently you will be able to. Both the physical cartridge versions, they will be compatible, which means they're keeping that form factor for their games as well. And downloaded games, so digital games, will also be backwards compatible from the Switch to the Switch 2. They do have an asterisk there, however. We don't know full detail about what the asterisk means beyond it saying that not all games will be backwards compatible. So we have to wait and see where the line in the sand is drawn. Like, is it just first-party games that will be backwards compatible? Is it some games that have very specific licenses that they're not going to bother trying to make backwards compatible? We don't know. However, we will know more because also at the end of that video, they say that we're going to hear more on April 2nd, as that is when the next Nintendo Direct is set to occur. And I suspect that will be a relatively lengthy Nintendo Direct, as we're going to hear lots about the Switch 2, maybe see some games, launch titles as well. And that also gives you an idea of when this console is coming out. Earliest would then, one would imagine, would be June. Would be the absolute earliest that you're likely to see the Switch 2. Which is maybe a little later than some people expected. I know a lot of people were thinking, and I might have even thought at one point, like a March kind of a window. But they're going for summer as the earliest, which is soon enough, I suppose. So there you go. That was the big news today, and really for the week, is the Switch 2. Now, I don't even have to ask this question, because I know you're getting one.
Yes.
On launch day, if you can. They did say, so as everyone would remember, when the Switch came out, it was a nightmare to purchase for the longest fucking time. They were sold out everywhere forever. And you have to remember, Switch has been around for a while, so that was long before the pandemic, issue with the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. That wasn't the typical supply chain issue so much as that was just Nintendo was not able to produce enough consoles even before, in the before times, to keep up with demand. There has been discussion that they feel that they have the supply chain in place to sell 20 million Switch 2 consoles in its first year, which is up 5 million from the original Switch. So you're probably still going to be Mad Max fighting some soccer mom in order to get your hands on one if you're trying to get one real early, but it shouldn't be quite as difficult as it was the last time around. And that's pretty much it. But how are we feeling, Mr. Black? You don't see a lot in that, but how are we feeling about a Switch 2? Do you think that do you think this is good timing for it? You've been playing a lot more Switch as of late because you picked up that new one for yourself to play a little bit more in your downtime. So how are we feeling about the Switch 2?
Yeah, I'm pumped.
Ready for the sequel?
I'm ready for it. Yeah, I'm ready for it. I think it looks nice. I think it looks sleek. I like that it's bigger. Yeah, I mean, I'm here for it. I don't know. I personally think the Nintendo Switch is the best console to come out in the last 10 years.
I would agree.
Yeah, I don't even think it's really close. And obviously, we're not talking about like graphical power or just console power, but I'm talking about just a console that just does what it does. It's got some imperfections, of course. Like I get that. But it does what it does. It does it well. And they've got the games. They just got the games. They've got so many games. They've got all the games. They're there. And when I say all the games, I don't mean like, your Last of Us and your God of Wars and ain't nobody got time for that. What we got time for, though, is we got time for Marios, man. We got time for the Zeldas. We got time for those, like, pick 'em up, play 6 to 8 hour arcade type games that just don't require a 60-hour dedicated, like, it's just, they're just solid. The whole thing is solid. I mean, we talked about it before. I think the console is great, at least the original Nintendo Switch. And I really, really look forward to picking up the next Nintendo Switch. I really am. I'm probably going to get 2 of them because I know my son's going to take it.
Monopolized.
Yeah, I mean, we already have 2 Nintendo Switches here, and they're both used daily, both of them. So yeah, I'll probably pick up 2 of these Nintendo Switch 2s, and yeah, I'll have one for Kayla and Kai, and then one for myself. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to another Mario Kart. My son's gonna be jacked. You know, all new tracks, probably some old favorites, and probably some new characters. I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it. And it takes a lot for me to get excited about something. It's not like I'm like chomping at the bit, you know, counting the days down in which it's out. But when it's out, I'm there day one. I'm picking them up.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what level of hardware they landed on. I know that they've discussed that this whatever hardware they're using is capable of using some level of AI upscaling to try to help them keep frame rates more stable. Which really, again, for me, when it comes to the Switch and Nintendo games, I don't need 4K fucking whatever. I would like to just hit 60 frames. Would be great. If we can just, like, if it's 1080, 60, great. I'm in. Shit, in handheld mode, you give me 720 at 60. Fantastic. Just the important number here is 60. Because this like 15 frame per second like Legend of Zelda shit gotta stop. And it was, I mean, the problem with the Switch 1 was that honestly, and everyone knew it was going to be a problem when it first launched, they announced the hardware choice they made. They locked themselves in literally just like 1 or 2 months before the next step that they could have locked in with NVIDIA on this APU that they're using, or Tegra chip, which is like basically a mobile fucking chip, that would have made like dramatic improvements in terms of the longevity. Like, because the Switch was already getting haggard like 9 months into the fucking console was already struggling. Although there is an interesting thing about the Switch that I did discover, you know, as people have started modding them, not necessarily in the sense of like making them run illegal games, but there was a guy, and I wish I remembered his YouTube channel, but he does a lot of this kind of hardware modding, where he pulled the Switch out of the shell and he 3D printed like a just like more of a console box form factor, and then it allowed him to put like an actual like fan on the fucking thing, like a normal console would have, and just put that, and just that by itself, because it wasn't overheating, and then therefore when it overheats, the Switch has to downclock itself to stop it from blowing up. You know, when you downclock, you're losing a lot of performance. So when he put this in this new form factor, and when I put a fan on it, all of a sudden a lot of games were getting a smooth, anywhere from rock stall, you know, solid 30 up to 45, even 60 frames per second, where when you play it normally, it was like fucking crying just trying to like load the main menu. So some of it was also the form factor. So I'm really interested to see how they improve upon it, upon that portion for the Switch 2. But I'm also excited, like you said, to see what they can do with a little bit more grunt and just Nintendo games, bro. Because we've said it before, Nintendo is one of the few, you know, one of the last major players who are just making what you'd call, in quotation marks, video games. Not, you know, yes, so the stuff that, you know, like Last of Us,
not cinematic storytelling and these fucking
video
like,
games.
you know, video games, not a bunch of out of university screenwriters that are trying to fucking work their way into Hollywood through proxy of making fucking, you know, high graphic cutscene related fucking garbo. You know, Nintendo out here just making
video games.
Video games. Just shut your brain off and have some fun. Not saying that those things don't exist on other consoles. It's just, it's the entire Nintendo's MO.
Yeah,
exactly. It's what Nintendo does. They make games. Fun, good, quality games that doesn't require a patch or a fucking any of this other dumb shit. They just come out with it. And it's great. Even if you don't like the games and you play them, you have an appreciation for a well-made game. You're like, hey, it's not really my thing, but I see it. Okay.
And it's funny how you know you can. There's still proof of people just clearly wanting a game when stuff like Balatro can do as well as it did here this year.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't get much simpler than Balatro. I mean, the game, like I said before, the joke the creator made was that the size of the trailer that he posted on YouTube was larger than the file for the actual game itself. And it's done enormous numbers because people sometimes just want to play a fucking game and not have to make some sort of crazy commitment and, like you said, go through a kind of we really want to be making movies, but we're in the video game industry, so we're going to do that instead over here, which has its place. But I feel like it's become too much of the norm for me. I'd like to get back to more just kind of games as games, and Nintendo does often the best job of that. Other than Mario Kart 9, what are there any games you think of, sequels or otherwise, or maybe bringing back some others you haven't played in a hot minute that you might like to see? Like if there's some day one games for the Switch 2, what would you want as Mr. Black to be able to buy his 2 Switches? You know, you had to fight a soccer mom to get the fucking 2 consoles. What are we playing?
I mean, just give me the new Mario Kart, so Mario Kart 9, and give me a Mario game. That's it. Give me those 2, and I'm good.
Do you want like a Mario Kart? Or Mario Kart, a Mario 64 over the shoulder Mario, or like a Galaxy Mario, or are you looking for like a side scroller Mario?
Either one.
What's your preference? Either one?
I mean, my preference.
Have you played some of the side scrolling ones recently since you have you've been putting the Switch on? Yeah.
Kai's beaten, dude. That kid.
Just crushing Mario.
Bro, that kid. I mean, I'm that guy right now talking about his kid, but I mean, Kai is insane. He started playing video games when he was like 3, like really playing games, and he's turning 6 next month, and he's beaten Mario Wonder, he's beaten Mario Odyssey. He's working on Mario Galaxy right now. That one's a little bit tougher for him because of the way.
Well, it's the 3D space. That's a lot for a 5-year-old.
So like when you're running up like a mountain or something, the whole screen is kind of like moving with you. So he's not used to that. But yeah, he's beaten that. He's beaten tons of arcade games like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like side scroller type beat 'em ups. I mean, this kid is like. When I was his age, I wasn't on this level. Like nowhere's near. And he rages like I do.
To be fair, have you put like Nintendo Entertainment Center or System fucking Ninja Turtles in front of him? Because I don't think he's beating those. That's what we grew up on. You have to remember. If he's beating Turtles in time, we've got a problem.
I mean, we did beat Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Time together on my arcade system, but like we had unlimited credits. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But no, I mean, he's not. I mean, the games aren't as hard as they used to be. Like, or in terms of like, when you die, you can basically kind of keep playing the level. You know what I mean?
Because they're not based on arcade games anymore.
Correct. Yeah. So yeah, he's beating games like he's like legitimate games. And so I would probably prefer to do. I'd just say give me the open world Mario because he really likes those too. And then give me the Mario Kart. I mean, the Mario Kart's just easy. Like, I mean, you'll pick that up and it just feels familiar. Same with the Mario games, but they're just well built games. So you give me those 2 games, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, those are really the only 2 things I'd look for as well. I feel like Mario Kart 9 is the one that they launch with. I'd be shocked if they've got a Mario in the pocket. We know that Metroid Prime 4 is coming at some point, but I don't know if they'll have that at launch. But there are some games we know of that are in development right now that a lot of people have been waiting a long time for that will make an appearance for the Switch 2. But launch is interesting. We'll know more in April. As I said, that Direct is coming. But for now, yeah, no, I'm interested. I think it would have been real weird. You know what? I'm actually just happy that they called it the Switch 2.
Yeah.
Because the when they did the Wii U thing, like the number of parents and grandparents in like Walmarts across the world, going in trying to buy the latest Nintendo console for their grandchildren or their child, not knowing what the fuck the difference is between a Wii and a Wii U, fucked them royally. So they really, really, really did themselves well. They can see the 2 is in the name. That one came after the first one. We can do that. That's easy to do. So I think that was a smart move. And I really do think that they nailed that form factor. I don't know. You know, it's going to be a hot minute before they walk away from that form factor. Let's put it that way. You know, it'll be quite a significant shift in interfaces in general before I think they move away from it. And there's a reason why Steam Deck and other people are all using the same form factor. It's a fucking banger. It just does a great job of filling the void. Imagine Nintendo's, you know, joy to some degree of being able to go from having to produce 2 separate consoles, a handheld market and a console market for at home, and now they just make one.
Yeah, that's great. Unreal. It works. I'm here for it.
Quick news, Mr. Black. Rumors continue to swirl around Master Chief Collection going to the PlayStation 5 at some point this year, and apparently even the Switch, although I doubt it would be the Switch. It would be the Switch 2 if it did happen. That's just weird to me. My brain can't comprehend that, but then again, Microsoft is at the place where they're just really turning themselves into a glorified publisher. So at this point, it should just be de facto assumed that at some point down the road, almost all of their exclusives or used to be exclusives will be canvassed everywhere moving forward. TikTok, having been banned in the U.S., has seen the app RedNote skyrocket to the #1 app on the U.S. App Store ahead of the ban on TikTok or of TikTok on the 19th. Just another great example of remember the Prohibition era? It's basically the social media equivalent of the Prohibition. It's just way more easy to track that people are just doing whatever you don't want. Listen, it was a weird, and in Canada we have the same problem but different. They're not banning TikTok here per se, but we have what is it, Bill C? Is it C-63? I can't remember the bill anymore. Where the government for a long, and they've tried to be doing this for fucking eternity now, where they want more Canadian content, and the Canadian content is a vaguely defined term, to be put in front of Canadian eyeballs. And they use that format in TV, traditional television, cable, whatever the fuck. So that if you were providing, stuff in general to the Canadian market, you had to produce or show some X amount of Canadian content. And then at some point, some fucking old head that doesn't know what the hell they're talking about, or how Wi-Fi works at the very least, woke up and said, what if we did that, but did it to YouTube? And other social media platforms, not knowing what that would actually entail or that it was one of the dumbest ideas you come up with. But we have, similar things here just being done in a different manner. But it's hard to take, any government seriously when they're basically doing what they're telling you that they're, supposedly protecting you as a user or as a consumer. And then they go and do the very thing that they're telling you that they're protecting you from. Is exactly why this RedNote fucking app is blowing up immediately as TikTok is getting ready to be banned. It's just a really weird time. I doubt it will stick around for very long. I'm sure that they're gonna find a way for one of the existing billionaires in America to own TikTok in the US side. That's almost a guarantee to happen. Do I think that's any better than having just left TikTok do its own thing? No, but that's not the reason why they're doing it in the first place. So it's not, TikTok's ban had nothing to do with protecting American information in the first place. Just like up here in Canada, Bill C-63 had nothing to do with let's get good old fashioned Canadian content in front of people on YouTube. But yeah, there you go. That's the number one app out there. And what's been funny is because there's not a lot of guardrails on Red Note as of yet. It's been fun to watch from the sidelines. I'm not on the app, but I'm seeing people posting, their interactions on it. It's been fun to see because mostly younger people using this thing. Youth in China interacting with youth in North America, specifically the U.S. in this case, obviously because of the ban, and because there's not as many guardrails yet. Both sides discovering these stereotypes that their governments individually feed them about the other side of the fence. Like, wait a minute, you're telling me this doesn't actually fucking happen over there? And the other side's like, yeah, I thought that this happened over there. Like, fuck no, what the hell? It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And so it's like this really funny moment, this brief, and it probably won't last very long before they slam the guardrails back on so that both sides can, ensure that, anti-US on one side, anti-China on the other can go back to their regularly scheduled programming. But it's just been kind of fucking funny to watch, young people, kind of get together. And it made me think, Mr. Black, as a Canadian, especially with what's going on right now with, the tariff thing from Trump and whatnot, for our generation and Gen X, so in the 90s especially, and even into the early 2000s, crazy anti-American sentiment in our generation, in general, from a Canada culture versus U.S. culture, and that only got worse the further back you went. So boomers and shit, it just got worse and worse. But as soon as the internet was introduced and the younger people on both sides are talking to each other more, that's not nearly as excessive as it used to be. And I think it shows. Big shocker here. But I think it shows that that when some of the, whether it's corporate or political influence, puppetry gets out of the way and the average person talks to the average person, it's fucking amazing how quickly some of this shit sorts itself out, isn't it? What a fucking shocker that is. It's things almost sort themselves out in a pretty logical manner when billionaires and political interests get the fuck out the way and the average person talks to the average person. What a surprising turn of events. But yeah, I just had to throw that in there because I thought it was kind of funny to see that that happening. Other than that, Xbox has a developer direct next week. We're going to see Phil Spencer come out and lie some more. So that'll be fun. That's about it. on the quick.
That's great.
The quick news. Listen, I love Phil Spencer, but it's been a long while now watching him get saltier and saltier and in a way that you're watching Phil from the side. I feel like I'm watching Phil from the sideline who has good intentions, but he's not. He's being forced to take too much Microsoft corporate interest into account for the decisions that he ultimately is making, and the blame rests on his shoulders from a public perspective. And watching him be this kind of jovial, fucking very, even when times were bad, whatever, relatable. And then you'd see him at the Game Awards, and Xbox had nothing to show at the Game Awards. They had the Indiana Jones thing, and the camera cuts to Phil at one point. I think it was when Astro Bot won Game of the Year. And Phil looked like he'd been through 3 world wars, dragged through the fucking dirt, could not hide disappointment on his face if he tried. Was just down bad in 4K. Not even the great Pedro Estache with his 17 flutes could raise the spirits of one Mr. Phil Spencer. And so every time I see him now, all I can see is a dejected, salty, individual. Because he's got nothing. What are they going to do? Wait, all right, prediction before we move on, Mr. Black. What does Xbox have for us next week? I will say this. The peak rumor is that, as we mentioned last week, Oblivion remaster for this, or remake for this year. That's all they're running on. That's the fumes they're running on right now, Mr. Black. Any other hot take predictions for next week. What does Phil Spencer have for us, Mr. Black? As somebody buying 2 Switch 2s, what do you want to see?
Nothing. I want to see Xbox die. Like, seriously, man. I literally only own the newest.
That's like in a movie and somebody's got a gun to somebody's head. Like, what do you want from me? Nothing. I want to see you die. And you're like, oh, fuck, I'm doomed. I've got nothing I can do to get out of this situation. I'm fucked.
I mean, the only reason why I actually have the newest Xbox is because a sponsor paid for me to have one to play their game. And I've never turned it on for anything else. I have 0 apps on it.
Oh.
It just sits in the media room collecting dust. So yeah, they could show me nothing. There is nothing that they could show me that would get me excited about Xbox. There's nothing.
Honestly, I thought about this earlier when when I was writing the podcast up. I was like, what do I want to see? And while I can't say I'm all the way in the side of I want to see them die, I also don't have the thing that surprised me is I sat there, was like, I actually don't have an answer. I don't know what I want from Xbox at this point. As a publisher, as a console developer, I don't know. Going into the Series X this generation, when they first announced it, I was really bullish because the console itself is actually really fucking well designed. Pretty much everything about it from a console perspective is phenomenal. They shot themselves in the foot, even though it was in good intentions with the Series S, because it made developers hit the lowest common denominator to be able to develop for the Xbox. And that fucked them up. But like as a console is concerned, these were good, well-designed things. But the problem was, we said 1,000 times, the games have to be there. You can have the best console in the world, and if you don't got games that people want to play, or you have the same games somebody else has that you can play, and they also have games that you can't play somewhere else, or at the very least that their friends own those consoles to play something else, you have a real fucking problem. And that's been Xbox's problem. And when this first started, this generation, Phil was very bullish. And now, what's the narrative? Console war's over. We can't win. They gave up. They're not even trying. Zero effort.
But I respect that. I actually respect that. Because at some point, you have to realize when you've lost the game. Sometimes you got to pick your ball up and go home. Like, it's over. We'll give you the participation fucking reward, but we all know that don't mean shit. That's just to make you feel better. You lost. And you lost hard. Like, badly. So they need to go back to the drawing board. And then they have to come up with something. And as we said before, last week, the only Hail Mary that they have, the only one, is Minecraft 2. That's it. That's the Hail Mary. That's the, Notch. And Notch got to do this. This can't be like, this can't be, Notch kind of overseeing the project. Notch has got to fucking get his little, he's got to get his ass in the lab. And he's got to put his touch on it. And he has to be excited about it. And if they do that, they're back. They're back. If they don't, they're dead. I mean, they're already dead. So, or they're the console's dead. They have Game Pass. So, I mean, they have that going for them.
It's not that they're not making money, but yeah.
No. I mean, yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of, Twitch ain't making money. Fucking,
they're leaving a lot on the table, is how I look at it. right now.
Yeah. 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 I mean, Microsoft's not a small company. Microsoft's big. They have all the monies. They have all of the monies. Question is when do they stop hemorrhaging? That's the question. And maybe it just pays for them to keep making consoles and keep losing money. Just to be in the space in hopes that eventually they strike lightning. And they're back. But I think the only thing that Philly can say, the only thing is give us some good news about what's coming this year. I don't care what it is, but then at the very end, you need to tell everybody, by the way, we are working on the next console. And guess what? Minecraft 2 is also in production, and it has been for a while. This is the Hail Mary that they need to throw, and if they don't, well, GG's.
It's such an interesting time at Xbox right now, because I don't know how much you remember, but from this earlier, or in 2024. But they have, they've got, Phil is the head of one portion of Xbox, and then they've got Sarah Bond, head of hardware, and then they've got what's his name? Oh my god, I can see him in my mind right now, but his name is escaping me. Heading up software. And I can't remember. I can't believe I can't remember his name. But so the fact that they even have somebody at the head of hardware tells you that there has to be some level of commitment for a non-specific period of time to hardware of some kind. Now, how long does that mean that it will be a box that sits on a shelf plugged into a TV? Or how much is it, like we talked about last week, maybe 2026 sees an Xbox handheld to kind of coincide with this cloud gaming service they have, the Game Pass, that whole pipeline. And with the prevalence of things like Steam Decks and whatnot becoming more popular, the Switch 2 form factor, obviously the leading form factor for anything not a console that just plugs into a TV. Like, maybe that's it. I guess if I had to pick one thing that I want to hear from Phil and have it actually happen, is we're now like 3 years in a row at this point. Not including 25 as a year. So from, like, let's say 21 through 24, of having Phil go up on some stage or in some direct and say, we've got so many great games in the pipeline. They've been in that pipeline for a fucking goddamn eternity, and none of them are leaving the pipeline. They are still in the pipeline. And you can't go out and keep just saying we've got great games in the pipeline every year, and then the thing that is supposed to get people excited, even though it's a good game, which it clearly is, you go out and say, okay, well, we've got Indiana Jones. One game in like 4 years. And it's a good game, but that's one game in 4 years of all these games you've been talking up forever and ever. So I want Phil to come out. If I had to pay, it's not even game specific, but I want 5 games.
Good luck.
For 25 and 26.
You ain't getting it, bro.
With release dates. And if they don't have those, then I think they're even more fucked than they already are. And I will go from being relatively certain that they will be an exclusive game publisher a la Steam in the future to they are just going to be an exclusive game publisher where they don't care so much about timelines. Now, we're already there. Yep. Even if they're producing some other, they're just there. It's like performative art at this point. Yes. It's not like it's not even like, oh, we're actively trying to make these consoles to be something that we are proud of, that we can stand on as part of our business model. It's we're going through the motions. Because that's what it feels like right now, is they just feel like they're going through the motions. This is Jeff and Adam, Lag TV 2017. We're going through the motions. You know, we're putting out content and it's there and people are pretty much enjoying it. But for Jeff and Adam, who have been doing 48 videos a week for fucking 7 years at that point, it started to slow down. The passion was, you know, we were there, we were showing up. And then we had to go away.
Were we really there, Adam? But were we really there?
We had to go away for a while and come back, and now here we are. But that's what it feels like they're at right now. It feels like
here
they're
we
just
are,
dead on the
peddling mobile
inside.
games. Let's go.
I'm ready for later on today, peddling some of those games. But yeah, so that's all I'm interested in. I want hard dates, and I want them met. And I think that generally speaking, I agree with you. This is a Hail Mary time. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of 343 with Halo.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had their Hail Mary. They fucked it. They fumbled it. Now 343 doesn't exist. They had to rebrand the fucking thing to try to convince people that it's a new company.
Yeah.
That's where they're at.
They're fucked. Yeah.
They fumbled that shit.
Yeah. Game over.
This feels like the Xbox as a brand.
Yes.
Hail Mary. This year 25, 26, that into fiscal 26, this feels like Hail Mary territory. And so I'm very interested in what this direct has next week. And luckily, despite the fact it's happening on Thursday, like we're always cursed, luckily, just like this week with the Switch 2, it will actually happen before the podcast. Thank fucking God.
Oh, wow.
Which means we will have something to talk about when it happens next week.
Well, there we go.
But before we get to next week, we've got to get into the next segment, which has exactly one thing to talk about briefly. And that is after
movies and
Mr. Black sells out.
TV.
It's
wait, I get
right
sellout
sellout.
Patreon.com/lagtv. Head on over there. Throw some money. Hail Mary some money at the screen. And get yourself a subscription over on patreon.com/lagtv. Support what we do. You know, you're supporting not only the podcast, but the Starcraft and everything else in between. So head on over there. Or you can support our sponsor, NordVPN. If you guys don't already have a VPN, you can go check them out at NordVPN.com/OTT. Click on the link in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, and get yourself a 2-year subscription with 4 extra months with a massive discount. You can use up to 10 simultaneous devices. It's super easy to use. But like literally, click of a button, you mask your IP to a different IP, and you unlock other parts of the internet that may be region blocked for you. So go check them out. They also have threat protection, which can be used on your desktop. Just runs in the background of your computer, and it will detect malicious things that are going on the interwebs. It'll make it so that these websites can't track you, can't take your information. There won't be any of these crazy pop-ups all over the place just driving you nuts. And they'll give you a warning when sites seem shady or there's some shady things going on. So go check that out. You don't even need to be connected to a VPN when you have that running. And it doesn't bog down your computer, doesn't do any of that stuff. It just runs in the background and does what it does. So go check them out. Plus, Nord's got all kinds of awesome products. They've got password protectors and creators, and I mean, they've got a whole slew of things. So go and check them out. Get in that NordVPN ecosystem. It's a great way to support us. It's a great way to support the sponsor. And more importantly, it's a great way for you to stay anonymous and have anonymity on the internet and protect yourself and or your family and your devices when you are on the interweb. So go check them out again. It's NordVPN.com/OTT. And with a 30-day money-back guarantee, you can basically try it risk-free for 30 days. If you don't like it for whatever reason, just get your money back. No questions asked within that 30 days. But something tells me you're going to enjoy it. So go check them out. They've been in the game for over 11 years. Big thank you to NordVPN.
Nailed it. And now it's time for a very brief and kind of solemn
movies and TV.
We lost a real one today, Mr. Black. I don't know if you saw it yet, because it happened just
Who died,
moments
man?
before David Lynch.
Oh shit.
Yeah, big one,
Okay.
big boy. So if you are a film enjoyer like Mr. Black, he's probably watched a few David Lynch films in his time.
Mm-hmm.
David Lynch, known for, I mean, my God, what? Let me just pull up because there's lots of people, for example, that would maybe have seen his movies but not even know that they were a David Lynch film. Let me just pull up a little quick one. I mean, honestly, the one that would probably be the thing that got me, even though I haven't seen all of it yet, Twin Peaks was my real, like, because I had seen David Lynch stuff before that, but that was the one that I first was like, this is fucking wild. Who made this thing? Was Twin Peaks. For me, which was coincidentally the basis for the game Deadly Premonition, which I always suggest people play, even though functionally the game is fucking fucked. But the actual, like, because it's based on Twin Peaks and it's really well written, it is definitely worth checking out. It has a sequel now as well. But yeah, Twin Peaks. But I mean, my God, dude. Shit.
Yeah, I mean he's done Dune.
He did the original Dune.
The original Dune. Yeah.
Elephant Man.
Yeah, I mean he was much bigger like years ago. Like obviously he's been older and kind of he does a lot of writing or did a lot of writing and stuff like that. But yeah, that's a shame. He I don't know how he couldn't have been that old, right? Maybe in the 70s. Okay.
78. Okay. And so,
young.
Depending on any number of factors, 78 can either be young or old, depending on what he was already battling at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah. Hell of a... I think what I appreciated the most about his work, especially with stuff like Twin Peaks, or anything that he was like writing, is he... How can I say this? Kindly. I feel like David Lynch is who M. Night Shyamalan wishes he was as a writer-director. Does that make sense?
I see where you're going with it.
He was, like, David Lynch really, really good at seemingly giving you a lot of information in any given scene and allowing you to think that you figured something out. And then giving you a really satisfying rug pull at the other side. Really good at revealing stuff in a way that was satisfying and didn't feel cheap. It felt like the reveals added something to it, which is, I think, why I liked Twin Peaks as much as I did, and the game by extension, Deadly Premonition. Really, really, really... I think what I appreciated the most about his stuff, but yeah, 78. Apparently, according to DK in chat, smoking a lot for most of his life or all of his life. That'll do it.
They'll definitely do it.
You'll make a 78 with that, unless you're one of those like genetic freak shows that you just make it to 110, smoking like 10 packs a day, and there are some weirdos out there capable. That will shorten the lifespan of many a person. But yeah, so there you go. So rest in peace, one Mr. Lynch, and yeah, now I have to. Maybe I can convince M. We sit down and watch Twin Peaks.
Good movie.
Might be.
I haven't seen that movie in like 20 years. I watched it when I was like a teenager.
Well, it's also a series too, eh? They turned that into a series, like a TV series.
I heard. Yeah, I've never watched it though.
Yeah.
And the series is kind of old now too, right? That came out
It is. Oh yeah, it's old.
Like 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's old.
Twin Peaks.
Yeah. Series. The show is actually what I'm referring to, not the movie.
Oh, okay. You're not
directly.
The movie. Oh, wait,
yeah.
Okay, so the shows came out. Oh, I guess it was a while ago.
It was a long while ago.
1990.
Yeah. Yep, very long time ago.
I thought they made like a newer version. Oh, they did. There was a TV series in 2017.
Yeah, they redid.
I was gonna say. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, so the
All
one
right.
that I watched first or saw first was the 90s Twin Peaks, the 3-season TV show.
Yeah, see, I never even watched that. I've only ever watched the movie.
Yeah. Maybe I'm crazy. Did David Lynch even have anything to do with the fucking TV show? Oh, yes, he did. Okay.
I would imagine so, because he made the
not
movie.
only that, but he made a small appearance as the FBI deputy director in the show.
No, there you go.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, that they had what's his name, Mr. X-Files, I think before he did the X-Files or around that time.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, how old is X-Files now? Is that mid 90s or earlier?
Oh, that's gotta.
Was it 80s?
Oh, I think it's gotta be 80s, bro.
Was it?
Like late 80s.
Man,
like X-Files? That's gotta be like 30 years old. X-Files.
We've gotten far enough away now that my brain conflates the 80s and 90s.
Let me see here. Okay, X-Files 93.
Okay, there you go.
93.
So just before, like literally, he did Twin Peaks and then walked into X-Files, which,
bro,
if I think about it, makes a lot of sense.
X-Files was from 93 to 2018. That shit went on.
In various forms, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a long run.
It was.
I mean, that was the X-Files was a whole cultural cornerstone for a hot minute. I mean, that shit was incredibly popular.
Oh, big time.
For a long time. A lot of dudes getting their spiritual awakening to, what was her name? Sully or whatever in X-Files.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, I mean, even if you've never, the crazy thing is that there's probably a whole bunch of people that are young enough that have never seen an X-Files show, but would still recognize the tune to X-Files because it's used
everywhere
in so much random shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the whole thing, do 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 do. Yeah, like so even if you've never seen the show, odds are, you know, if you've heard that, you've got a piece of the X-Files. But yeah, that's really it. Unless you got anything else. I thought that Interstellar was on our Netflix, but it's not. It's, I think, on only maybe American, which is a great use of NordVPN /OTT.
Yep.
But yeah, otherwise, we didn't watch. Em and I have a movie night coming up this Saturday. It's a movie, wine, pizza, Scrabble night. That's our date nights oftentimes. So that hot combo, bottle of wine, pizza.
Just the two of you?
Scrabble, just the two of us, and movies.
Oh, damn.
On the TV. Which, I gotta be honest, is like I told her, I said, I know you like to go out for dinner and stuff, but that's my jam. She said, we gotta spend more time together. I said, all right, we do it, but it's more pizza, it's more wine, it's more Scrabble, it's more movies. Because going out, I mean, even the pizza's expensive at this point, dude. Everything's
it's crazy. We're going out tomorrow because my birthday's next week, so my parents are coming over and they're taking Kai out. So Kayla wants to go out tomorrow. And we rarely go out, so I don't know what the fucking plan is, but I'm here for it.
You could, it depends on how much money you want to spend, really, in Halifax at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at that stage where I just don't care. I'm like, we go out like once every 2 to 3 months, like go out.
Remember, I told you the brasserie.
If I spend $300, $400, it's like okay, it's not like we do this.
You go out like once every
month or it's like we don't go out often, so I don't really worry too. Like I'm cautious of it.
You don't want to waste money, but you want to enjoy yourself for the money
correct.
spent.
I want to go out and exactly. I'm going to go out and enjoy myself, right? So if it costs a few $100 to do it, which let's be real, that's pretty much the economy that we live in now. Yeah, you want to go to the movies, it's like $100. You want to fucking, or it's like $70. For like 2 movie tickets, a couple popcorns and drinks, like literally, you go to like even if you go to a place like Moxie's, which is okay.
Dude, I just talked to Emma yesterday. I was like, I can't even go there anymore because I feel bad.
It's not worth it. The value ain't even, dude. Because now Moxie's used to be the place that you would go if you didn't want to go to a place that you didn't want to spend $200 on a meal, like between the two of you. So like you'd get a meal and it might be $100 to $120.
Yeah. That's with a drink, like one glass
of
of wine each, or a beer and a wine, dessert.
Yes. Now, dude, the last time I went to Moxie's,
was it 2?
I went with Kayla. It was we had a gift card for $200, and the whole thing came out to like $180. So I gave the gift card of $200, and then I tipped, like I got cash, and I added more on top.
Damn.
And the food was just mid as fuck. So I'm like, okay. If we're gonna go out, I don't know if it got worse. Didn't
Moxie's
get better.
Has always been like Moxie's has always been like Boston pizza, but better.
Yes, yeah, but I mean, I prefer the Boston pizza vibe. I prefer to go to Boston Pizza. It's cheaper.
Yeah, the step
and the
down
vibe
in quality
is
of food is not dramatic, but the vibe is better.
Yeah. So yeah, if we're going out tomorrow, I ain't going there. We're gonna have to go either. I'm either going to a nice sushi place, or I'm going to a steakhouse. And I want to go to a nice one. So yeah,
like I said,
it's dumb.
When Em and I went out just for our dinner, we went to the brasserie on Agricola, and that was great. I would say between the two of you, if you're getting individual entrees, individual appetizers, individual desserts, couple of drinks each, you're probably looking at about $230, $240 after tip, somewhere in that neck of the woods. And
we went to the Barrington.
Good, solid, fucking good, and the steak was fucking good, like
bro,
good for how much money they asked for it.
The next time you guys go out, go to Barrington Steakhouse.
Okay,
that's where you need to go. Like I'm not even just saying that. I sent you a link.
How
that's
long has
the
this
place
been
you need
around for?
It's a good question, actually.
Because I know I've lived here, but like Barrington Steakhouse is not a steakhouse that I'm familiar with.
I wasn't either until I looked shit up.
But this city, dude, this city has so many fucking goddamn. Do we have too many? Do you think?
Yes, I think so.
Do we just have?
I think so.
Too many. Like per capita, we must have the most restaurants per capita.
There's a lot,
in the country.
and a lot of them are pretty bad. But this place here, bro. The vibe, like, it's quiet. We went upstairs. There's 2 floors. The one downstairs, there's a bar, and there's a band, and they have like jazz music and stuff, like live music. But if you go upstairs, you can just hear the music. So like you can have a conversation, and you can still hear the music,
lower level.
But it's lower. Yeah, it's a lower level, and the ambiance there is nice. The food was amazing. Like, dude, it was real. And they do it all in like portions. So like if you order like carrots, you're getting like a fucking bowl of carrots, and you you kind of share your sides and stuff. But this place, and I don't remember exactly how much it was, but it was around the same price that you were saying about the other place. So like say, just over $200, say a couple glasses of wine, maybe a couple of drinks. I think I had a couple of Tom Collins. She had a couple glasses of wine. We had appetizers, and then we had steaks. And they've got Wagyu. They've got all kinds of different cuts and stuff like that.
I'm looking at the menu now.
And they can bring out the steaks and show you the different cuts. It's really solid, man. And I don't recommend too many places because some of them are just not worth. But if you're okay with spending a couple $100 on a nice date night, this is the spot. This is the spot. Anyway.
Yeah, I can see. It depends on what you want to do. You can really blow that up real quick.
Of course.
You can go get T-bone for $105 for 20 ounces. Which, first of all, if you're getting a 20-ounce steak, it's the only thing you're eating, unless you weigh 300 pounds.
Well, it's either that or you split it, right? Yeah. It's either you get a T-bone, you cut it in half, and then you both are eating it. But
20 ounces is a lot.
I ordered the. What did I order? I ordered the.
Shit, dude. I'm happy with I'm usually happy with a 10-ounce strip loin. Like, I'm happy with that. That's enough that I can still enjoy sides and a dessert.
For sure.
Like, that's the fucking pocket. Any more than 10 ounces, and I'm just eating meat because I'm not going to have any room for anything else.
I'm 95% sure I did the bourbon strip loin. That's what I'm pretty sure that I did.
That sounds delicious.
It was delicious. It was very good. And I think Kayla had a tenderloin. I think she had the
they've
8-ounce
got
tenderloin.
lamb?
Yes, and it's apparent they recommended that when I was ordering. They're like, listen, I know you want the steak, but the lamb,
honey Dijon butter pistachio lamb.
Yeah, bro. This place is cool. I fucks with this place.
I respect a place like this that still does a burger.
Yeah. And like I said, if you go downstairs, it's a lot more casual. It's a lot more like, it's nice. It's nice. Good vibe. Anyway, I'm just throwing that out there.
Oh, yeah. What is it? It is what it is. That's great. I do like.
It's been open since 2015. I'm reading the story.
So it is newer in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely gonna have to add this to the list of when we're going
out.
To go give it a look. Em's been talking about steak recently. Em's turned into a steak girl. She's a steak. She likes her steak.
Yes.
And so I was like, well, I mean, we can go. We want to go out somewhere. We could do that. And of course, Em is tiny. She's not eating fucking any more than 8 ounces of steak anyway. So it doesn't cost a fortune.
Steak. Yeah.
And when we go out too, because like when I go out, something I find, even for me, and I'm a big guy. And I can eat a lot, but I don't like to leave fucking uncomfortable. So a lot of times we go out, we'll get an appetizer we can share.
Yep.
We'll get our individual mains separate.
Yep.
And then we share a dessert and get a couple of drinks. That's typically how we do it. And
Perfect.
I mean, you don't spend a bunch of money, and when you leave, you're not like, I'm going to die or projectile vomit if I hit a speed bump on the way home.
That's the best way. Even when the food tastes really good, just kind of overeating, it just sucks because it just ruins the whole night.
And when you spend that much money, you're in the back of your mind, you're like,
you want to feel good.
I have to eat this. I have no choice.
Oh, yeah. Oh, don't get it twisted. If I order a fucking steak, I ain't throwing any of that steak out. I'm eating the fucking steak. So if I eat too much appetizer, I'm going to be salty, but it is what it is.
There you go. And now, with that, it's time to move on to
tech support.
Patreon.com/LikeTV is the place to go if you want to financially support the podcast, or if you're looking for just another outlet to support the Starcraft content as well. We got all sorts of ways to do that these days. Honestly, thanks to YouTube stuff. Now people have been very generous with super chats, which is a thing that or just what do they call them when it's not a stream?
Still super chat.
Called super chat still.
Yeah.
So people have been very generous with that on some of our casts recently. It's something that you can do on a per video if you just really like a video, or you hear about us doing something and you can't, and you want to find another way. That's a great way to support. People have been doing that. If you want to do like a more monthly thing, Patreon is a great way. It's not just for the podcast, of course. It all goes funneled into the same kind of pocket at the end of the day. And if you do go through Patreon, we got to make it worth to some degree. For $5 or more a month, you get a couple of perks, but chiefly here on the podcast, you can ask us questions on a post I put up on the Patreon before we go live with the podcast called Tech Support, where you can ask us questions, and we give you answers in the time that we have. And as per usual, I'm going to restart the app because Patreon makes a bad app, and I need to be able to fucking see comments. So I'm going. There we go. What the fuck is that question? It's the first question I see at the top of this fucking thing. Josh, what the fuck? Hey, Mr. Black, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Just how dangerous is Asmongold?
I mean, physically, I don't think he's very dangerous at all, but I think, influence-wise, I mean, he could probably, do some damage. If you wanted to go at somebody, I guess.
That might be the most random question I think I've ever fucking read.
I saw there was a whole bunch of drama and stuff. I don't know, man. Asmon has just. I've been seeing a lot of random shit about this guy.
He's always involved in something.
Yeah. But I really don't have an opinion because I don't watch any of Asmongold stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and talk ill about the dude. I have no. It is what it is.
Reminds me of the old meme. Jeff Gerstmann is still a threat, which is like a very old fucking meme. But I mean, so I do watch a fair amount of Asmongold stuff in the background when I'm doing things. Usually, if I'm like cooking in the kitchen, I've got Asmongold saying some crazy shit in the background, just because it's usually some pretty crazy shit. I find it relatively entertaining. It's so fucking crazy most of the time.
But that's the new Twitch thing, man. That's just a new that we're in a different era now. We're in the drama era. We're in the era of like and I think now that cancel culture is dying, people are much more outspoken.
Not that he was ever not outspoken. He's always been.
He has been, but but from what I've seen is he's been taking some pretty. He's like ramped it up. It feels, or maybe he's always been that.
Guaranteed. I mean,
but it feels like it's been a pretty big ramp up. Like, but yeah, it's just. Oh yeah,
he said some shit. Honestly, okay. So this is the take that I have on Asmongold. I mean, how dangerous is he's not. The take that I have on Asmongold, because I do watch a fair amount of his content, is that I think a lot of people get more upset with Asmongold because of his community than they do about Asmongold himself. Unfortunately, because Asmongold, for better or worse, does to the extent that an individual content creator can, or that he's choosing to, does leave most of his community, whether it's YouTube comment section, Twitch chat, etc., with very little guardrails. People can basically say whatever the fuck, do whatever the fuck. And because Asmon will take very strong positions on things, his community has attracted a lot of people with very strong positions on a lot of things, even though some of those strong positions are a little fucked up. And they're not necessarily the positions that Asmon holds. It's just that they hear somebody speaking with conviction about what they perceive to be a non-standard position or take. And they say, this is home because and it's true, because the more within reason allows pretty much everyone to say whatever the fuck that they want to say, for better or worse. And it does mean that he has his community a disproportionate amount of very toxic, ill intent kind of individuals. And so I think people look at that and then they project a lot of that onto Asmon himself, because he's not going out of his way to curtail any of that, really. Because if you really listen to Asmongold, he does say some crazy shit, but like 95% of the time, nothing he's saying is like fucking incredible. Like, there are way worse content creators that say way worse things on a regular basis than Asmon does. It's really his community is so fucking even he knows his community is fucking dumpster fire. But that's also
but he
what
makes
makes
millions and millions of dollars off it.
Exactly.
So who gives a shit?
That's exactly why he does what he does. Yeah. But how dangerous is Asmongold? I mean, no, he's not dangerous. The dude is what it is. Asmongold is as dangerous as any other individual content creator allows him to be. And like the thing that you would have seen coming up recently is some semi-drama around OnlyFans, the group of hardcore WoW folks, a lot of old school content creators in that group that you would have known some of. And then Thor, who is the Pirate Software, who is really blown up in fame here on Twitch and YouTube and otherwise in the last probably, let's call it 6 to 9 months to a year. And he was then part of that group doing OnlyFans content. They were doing a raid. Many bad decisions were made by everyone involved. And there's video of it, so it's kind of hard to dispute that that isn't the case. And most of the content creators pointed at Thor for being the reason why their characters are now dead. And it's hardcore, so their characters die, they're done.
Game over.
Yeah. Game over. And these are content creators that are making content with these characters, and so just like in RP that you constantly come up against. When a character, is killed off or some other shit, permit or otherwise, there's a lot of shit tied up with that from a content perspective. People catch feelings, etc., etc. Yep. He was the new guy. Thor was the new guy in the group. And new content creator, comparatively speaking, to these other people. and everyone's pointing fingers. What do you think happens? His back goes up. Obviously. He's defending. He's getting defensive. Thor gets defensive. Because you've got 4 or 5 other content creators, major content creators, long-standing content creators, who are now all attacking you.
Sounds like roleplay.
It is RP.
Yeah, it sounds
100%. It's the same thing.
It sounds literally the shit that I got into there the other day with some fuckboy that on some drama shit. So I get it, man.
It's the same thing.
People just getting their feelings about shit, right? And they don't get their way.
And when Asmund did a video on it, because obviously Asmund is like the World of Warcraft guy, like that's his history. He's the World of Warcraft guy to start, right? He Thor reacted to that video and then said that he actually often agrees with a lot of Asmund's takes on things, and saying that was like apparently the worst possible thing that Thor could have ever said. Because now everyone is saying, why would you ever side yourself or align yourself in any way, shape, or form with Asmund? And that's the drama that you would have seen on your timeline.
Yeah. This literally sounds like some role play shit, bro.
It's literally role play. It's so, when people
on the biggest scale.
on the like massive, right?
Yeah.
And so but again, and that's like, and content creators are fucking weird, man. So sometimes I'm happy that you and I are in the pocket that we are. Now you're in RP on the higher
I'm in
end,
a weird,
so you
I'm in a
get
weird
exposed
pocket.
to it.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of happy to some degree that I never got into, because I would be Thor in this situation.
You just call the shit out. You give a fuck.
I would be
go fuck yourself.
I'd tell them to go fuck themselves.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? Yeah.
And then everyone will look at them and look at me and be like, "You're a fucking asshole.
You're an asshole. You're an asshole, bro. Why are you defending yourself the way you are, man? Just be the bigger man." Just like, how could you agree with anything of Asmongold? Like, did you not hear the crazy shit that he said about the wars and all this other political shit that he believes in? Do you support that stuff, bro? Fuck. That's exactly
the game. What
man.
It is. Yeah.
That's the game. That's just it. They got to tie everything in to weave their narrative. They got to do that, and it's steamrolled by the dipshit fucking streamers that sit on their fucking high horse, and they basically just get their viewers to go out there and fuck on these people simply because they didn't get their way, or shit didn't work out the way they wanted, or you fucked their content up, or you're clout chasing. But everything was probably cool when everybody was sucking the tea to Thor, getting milking that fucking collaborative, and then the moment something happens, oh, you're the devil, bro. I seen it. Dude, I live it. Yeah, it is what it is, bro. Anyway, it's drama, and it's yeah.
For me, in this instance, and if you look at it, who's in the OnlyFans crew. I'm sure you at least know a few.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people from the roleplay community because
they're all in the same pocket.
They're all There's a lot of. I don't know if it's a lot of those. Anyway, I don't want to say any names.
Yeah. But
anyway,
when I found out who was all involved in this thing, I was just part of me was like really disappointed, because a lot of these creators are creators that have been around as long as we have, like TV, came up around the same time, so they're not new. They've been in the game a long time, and it was just they're in our age group too. These are grown ass men and women, but mostly men. Let's be honest, grown ass men in their mid-30s.
Yeah, man.
Or older in some instances.
Yeah.
And they've been in this content creation game for that long, and they're still acting like this as multi-millionaire, middle-aged fucking content is insane, bro.
Isn't it crazy?
Crazy.
And then when you
fuck up.
It's nuts, isn't it, bro? You're preaching,
pushing 40 out here doing this shit on the internet,
bro. Not even, and it's even on a bigger scale over on that OnlyFans thing, because a lot of these creators, man, we're not even just talking.
They're monster creators.
These guys are making millions a year, like millions. Some of them probably deca a year, and they're in their feelings over a video game. I mean, I get it. We all get passionate about stuff. We get wrapped up. Like I would imagine in the World of Warcraft, and you're doing the hardcore, you're you're dedicating long hours to like rank up, and then to just have your character die over somebody that, you know, was maybe doing something selfishly or didn't understand the ramifications. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. But at the end of the day, if it's turning into like a witch hunt, like to the point where like people are being fucking threatened and fucking, you know, all kinds of other crazy shit that goes on, and the creators won't stand up and say, hey, this is uncalled for. Yeah, we all get a little heated in the moment. We get competitive. But guys, this shit's got to stop. You know what I mean? But nobody does that because everybody's just got to be right. You know, there's a level of narcissism that happens in this realm of where people just think they have God complex. They think, you know, I mean, think about it, Adam. If you're a streamer and you wield you have the ability to point your finger and go, hey, attack this person, or you don't, or you even know that you don't even have to point the finger. Of course not, but they insinuate it.
There's a lot of insinuation.
They lead. Yeah. There's a lot of leading, right?
Yeah.
And all you have to do is basically, you know, murmur a few words, and you basically give the green light for your entire community. You just go over there and shit on another content creator, and they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. But you know what? That's the game that they all play. It's part of the relevancy. It's part of the headlines to get more Reddit posts. Yeah, the YouTube clips. That's what it is, brother. Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah, so it is what it is. I mean, I don't know any of these guys personally. I'm not taking a side. I don't give a fuck what Thor does or what Asmund does or whoever else is part of it. I mean, go have your fun, make your money, guys.
Watch these middle-aged fucking people do this shit, bro. It's fucking embarrassing.
Yeah, dude.
It's just embarrassing.
Yep. Wow.
Let's see. Roran asks, as I'm in my mid-30s, I've realized the things I used to care about are just not that important anymore. Is there anything you guys have noticed that isn't as important to you now that you're older? Well, we just talked about some of it. But other than that...
Not as important? I think not for me. I think one of the biggest sort of coming to Jesus moments that I've had, like a wake up call in my mid 30s, probably even a little bit sooner, probably like my early 30s. As I'm still theoretically in my mid 30s. I mean, I'm turning 38 next week, so I am getting older. But I would say in my early 30s, I stopped really giving a fuck about what people thought about me. You know, I mean, for the longest time, especially as a content creator, I'll speak for me because not all content creators feel this way, but you oftentimes want people to like you. I mean, I think that's a natural
or just
thing,
you want to have
right?
a
you want to
specific image, like image management,
right?
Yeah.
And you know, you read bad comments or you read, you know, hate emails or whatever the case may be, and you know, you feel as though you need to respond to everything or whatnot. And I still get that way sometimes when I feel like I'm being completely mistreated. But I can honestly say, like, just overall, and I think it's more so in real life than it is on the internet, but still the internet to a degree, is I stopped really worrying about what other people would think about a decision that I've made or about, you know, my own personal whatever, right? Oh, you know, I remember before, like, people used to ask, like, hey, you know, Jeff, what do you do for a living? And for a longest time, I wouldn't even tell people that I like played video games because I was more concerned about, like, what are they going to think about me? Like, are they think I'm some sort of like bum that fucking, you know, lives in his mom's basement and plays video games and doesn't contribute to the family? And, you know, I say I'm a professional gamer, but like really, you know, yeah, I'm not. So I would just say other things. I'd say I'm like, you know, I'm in marketing or I'm in, you know, whatever. It's just like small things that I'd be like almost not self-conscious about, but more so just I didn't really want to have to elaborate or have somebody have a certain image about me. But I don't give a fuck about that anymore. I just don't care. It is what it is. So I that's the first thing that comes to my mind. I'm sure there's other things. And obviously I still want people to, like me, but I don't search for it, or I don't try and convince.
You don't use that as an excuse to like not be yourself.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. I'm always going to be unapologetically me, and that's faulted. I have faults, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, yeah, I just do. But it is what it is, right? At this point, the older you get, the less fucks you. At least for me, I tend to give less fucks, but I also tend to give a lot more fucks about the things that actually matter. Mm-hmm. So like the things that really mean something, I'll die on the hill for that. But then the things that like are just trivial and is whatever, that just have no real effect, I just could give zero fucks. Say what you want. Like, I'll tell you to go fuck yourself, and it means not like, oh, what are you gonna tell me to go fuck myself? Like, ooh.
Yeah. I'm definitely, I mean, that's part of it for me. I think that's actually I think most people's experience as time goes on to some degree that becomes the case where like your focus on I guess for me, if I had to frame it even more specifically, I'm less worried about what people think of me, based on, what any of the things that you just talked about, opinion or anything like that, or what I'm doing. But like, I'm more interested in, the opinion people have of me. Like, I'm more focused with who I would put my energy into, impressing. Not in the sense of like changing who I am to do so, but like just I like, for as the easiest example, I'm more interested in what my parents think of me than I am of who somebody on the internet thinks of me because they saw a clip of
as
me,
you should,
call somebody a retard in a video game or something. I'm more concerned with that.
Somebody calls somebody a retard in a video game.
Which
you
is
said
enough,
the R word.
Which is enough now to basically, to get yourself in shit.
I could get myself by who?
But that's what I mean.
By who?
So like,
what I mean?
Earlier on, I probably would have been more concerned about a larger group of like, who is that? What am I impressing upon these people? And so, so I agree to that extent for sure for that. Other than that, I was just going to say kind of in general, like not even content creation or online. I was going to say the same thing before you mentioned it, but this extends more into just real life as well, where I was always a social chameleon. You could plug me into a room and I could change how I was talking with people to fit whatever fucking room you put me in. But now I'll still do that, but like I'm not as methodical about being exactly who I think they want me to be. I'll still do the thing. I'm just not as calculated about it. Or another kind of like tangent to that is I'm not as much of, and I've had a little bit of this, not that much, but definitely more of it when I was younger, a keeping up with the Joneses kind of mentality. Because as you would obviously know, having known me for as long as you have, all of my 20s was like hyper focused on like a small set of goals, and life found a way to make sure that 0 of those goals happen. And the lesson that I learned in that is that you can't. It's not that you shouldn't plan or you shouldn't have goals or you shouldn't strive to achieve goals, but you have to understand that you're not always going to be able to hit your target either at all or in the time frame you think it was going to happen. And younger me really fucking hung up on getting it done and getting it done in the time frame that I wanted it to happen. Older me is more interested in just putting my best foot forward, and if it doesn't happen, it's disappointing, but it's not, the end of the world. Just keep working towards the thing, right?
Yep.
Because a lot of the stress I held in my 20s was centered around constantly getting checked by life to not quite hitting all these targets that I had to reach. And so, letting go of that was definitely one of them. And that's the keeping up with the Joneses, seeing other people hitting those marks at those times or whatever. Not necessarily in the keeping up with the Joneses sense of like my, I watched somebody
comparison.
buy
it's
new
the comparison.
shoes or some shit.
It's the comparison is the what do they say? The comparison is the killer of fuck. There's a saying.
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the specific.
Yeah, it's like comparison is like the killer of I don't know. Of
happiness,
somebody's
maybe?
Gonna say it. Yeah, happiness to some degree. There's a catchier thing, but if you like compare yourself,
yeah, I know what you mean.
it's like, all my friends are getting married, they're having kids, they're going on the vacations, they got the new car, look at that, they bought a house, they did this, they look so happy, and then here I am, like not doing this or not doing that, or I did this, but it wasn't as fancy of a this, or it wasn't a there it is. Comparison is the thief of joy. Maybe that's it. I don't know what it is.
Sounds right.
Sounds about right. But I used to be that way for sure. I used to have those things, and then it just gets to the point where I'm just like, dude, I'm not trying to impress anybody. I also understand that the shit you see on the internet is just a highlight reel anyway.
Yeah,
somebody showing off their.
Really hard to remind yourself when you're constantly in it all the time, right? I mean, that's what younger kids are really getting fucked up on. That's how you end up with guys being the way they are and girls giving themselves lip filler and fucking injections at 19 years of age because
and getting on OnlyFans because why not?
Shit's crazy, right?
Yeah, bro. It's wild out there.
Zonix said, "Dark question. I hate entertaining the thought, but if the U.S. did invade Canada, would you take up arms?"
It's not happening. It's not happening. I don't even going to get into this. It's just not going to happen.
The joke that I had for somebody when I was asked a similar question before was that they could do it, but they might find out why the Geneva Conventions was largely written by because of what Canada did. Canada is full of really amenable, generally speaking, nice people. But that's not without some effort. And when you take the bumpers off at the bowling alley and you open that lane up, there's some pent up. It's the like what did I say? It's the what I compare it to. Remember the Simpsons episode with Flanders when he finally fucking loses his goddamn mind.
Yeah. It's like, hey, we're cool. But like, don't push us too fucking wild here, because we might be slightly batshit crazy.
Yeah, and there's a little crazy, but I mean, it would never happen. But it's and I still don't even think the tariffs will happen the way they did. Because Trump did something similar in his first go around where he heavily did with steel. And they lasted for exactly 1 year because there was a retaliatory tariffs and they had to revert on them. So the idea of 25% blank tariffs is the fucking funniest thing to me I ever heard.
The meme.
But it accomplished its goal. It got a bunch of really unintelligent politicians in Canada talking and freaking out publicly, which is what he wanted. He wanted people to publicly look like they were scrambling for him. It's an ego play. And it worked. Because unfortunately, we have a handful of politicians up here that have, 4 brain cells to rub together to create a spark of a thought.
Did you see that crazy clip of that chick? Did you see a crazy clip of that chick when she was she was speaking to the press and she was like, Donald Trump, let me just educate you here and send you to the library. And oh man, dude, it's like if bro. I can't even do it justice.
Was it a premier or something, or was it?
I think it was an MP of some sort.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to find the clip and send it to you, bro. You're gonna watch it and you're gonna go, "Oh my god, where the fuck did you come from? And who the fuck voted you to be in charge of anything? Like what actual fuck? Like, I mean, there's some weird shit, bro." There's some weird people in politics. There's some weird people.
I think some of that might be because you have to be a little weird to subject yourself to being a politician.
I suppose.
I think that's, like it kind of comes with the territory. Laus asks, after casting thousands of games, are there any names that stick with you? I always come back to Mike Hunt. I mean,
yeah, Mike Hunt,
one.
Niskel, yep. Fire to Blaze.
Those are the top three.
Yeah, those are just the ones that
Minuteman is another one that.
Yeah, I would say those three. Those few right there. That's the. You say those names, and I just instantly know, like, I can just visualize the game, and it's just memorable. Just memorable. Yeah. I'm sure there's a bunch. I'm sure that there's others, but those are the ones that just come to mind.
I think it surprises people sometimes when they have a better memory of, our content than we do. But, it's hard to explain how that happens. When you're the one making the content, after years and years and years, stuff starts to just blend together in your mind, and it gets harder.
But you
also
got to understand
out.
Yeah. Well, I think what some of that is though is people generally when they're consuming content, the content not only they're receiving it in a different way. Like we're creating it, and what we do is purely improv. So, whatever is said, and I can't remember the last time. No. I can't remember the last time anything that's been scripted outside of, maybe the first season of When Cheese Fails, when we would pre-watch it and come up with. No, but we knew kind of the direction in which we wanted to take the content, and we just filled it in. But I mean, like, I can't remember the last time we recorded something and we finished and we said, nah, not really feeling that one. Let's just axe it and redo it. I don't think that's ever really.
I don't think we've ever held back a single video ever.
I don't think so.
I really don't think it's ever happened.
I don't. And so, like, sometimes you guys get like really great casts that like everything is firing all cylinders. And we've kind of like hit our stride, and the comedy's funny, and the fucking, the banter's great. And there's other casts where it's just kind of falls flat, and there's not really much there. But it's just authentic. And so I think what it is Adam and I, we just have a job and we do it, and we have fun doing it. Sometimes we end a cast and we're just like, dude, what the fuck? And then there's other times where we're like, okay, yeah, that's a good one. Like, they're going to like that one. Like, that's a hit. Like, that one.
That's like as far as it goes. We know.
That's as far as it goes, right? Yeah. But I think what I'm getting at off the back of all that is, I think when people are consuming content, it not only there'll be memorable things for them as they're watching it, but I also think what it does is it kind of stamps a time in which in their lives
it was happening.
So that it was happening. And so, I often, when I'm consuming content, not only do I really enjoy the content and it makes me feel good about it, but it often is correlated to a time in which it takes me back to, like, I remember watching that. I was in university, and then the university, I remember I used to hang out with all my boys, and we would come in, and it adds to the experience. It's not just the content, but it's sort of where you were in life at the time, or the headspace that you were in. Maybe you were in a really bad headspace, and then a piece of content made you forget about it and put you in a good headspace, and that's what really, stamps that specific episode or that specific piece of content or that movie or that TV show. And I think that's what adds to why some people feel so passionate about very specific content and casts or film or music. It does things as a consumer.
Yeah,
it's different when we're making
it. It's different when you're making it on the other side.
Yeah, because I don't really, it's the same. We're doing the same thing. Like, the content's different, and maybe we're at different stages in life, and we have things that we can talk about, but
Yeah.
I'll be
Which is
honest.
why,
When I
you know,
record StarCraft, it feels genuinely the same. You know what I mean?
yes,
Like it's
yeah. It's and like is and to your point about that, you know, the stuff that I remember, not when I remember games, I don't necessarily remember the game as somebody would who watches it. I remember the process of making it. I remember the moment in which we're making it. So I remember the day that we did the was it episode 6 or 7 was the Queen across the map.
Mhm. Yes.
And I remember that day. We had gone
Me
to
too.
the deli. So we had just finished having sandwiches
Down the street.
down the street. And
Kel's.
I just Kel's Deli, and I left work because I worked in Dartmouth at the time. So I left work, deli, over to your place, and then I remember workshopping the bouncing back and forth between the destination for the Queen and whatnot, and then the idea of doing like the honey anus classic music thing in between. And I remember pacing the hallway outside of your office while you were in the chair and we were workshopping it. I can place myself in that moment. It was 7,000 degrees because that apartment had no airflow. It was humid and fucking 700 degrees at all times. And I can smell the apartment. I can feel the fucking air. I can watch myself walking back and forth. I still had hair at the time. Shit was different, you know, but I can be there in that moment. But then if you ask me to remember more about that cast than that, like the actual physical cast itself, I don't remember really anything. But I remember workshopping it. That's the stuff that you know, from our side, at least for me, that's how I remember things, is the actual functional making the cast. Like the one that, like another one people always bring up was the Kermit Just Arrived cast.
Yes.
Which was when we were when I just moved out of my
Your
parents'
basement.
place. No, I was upstairs still, and we were in that tiny little room. That's why it happened.
Oh shit, yes, on
because
the
there
third
was
floor.
no room.
And it was so fucking hot in there too, man. That place is
billion degrees in that fucking room.
God.
And the reaction in the game, and we went backwards, and there was the drawer stack behind that Kermit was sitting on, and it had my body lotion on there that we called the Fap lotion.
The Fap lotion, baby.
And both fell off, and this wasn't on camera when it happened, but it fell off, and the lotion top hit the ground, and it squirted lotion out, and it fucking looked like Kermit just got fucking, you know, took a face shot in Bang Bros. And we thought it was the funniest shit of all time. We took a picture. We included it as, I think, the thumbnail maybe for this cast. So, like, I remember that. But, like, the game, I don't fucking remember.
I have no idea. No fucking idea. No idea.
I don't remember that at all. So, you know, that's the stuff. You know, that's the stuff that we remember on this side. So, yeah, it is. It might surprise people, but that's why it's different making the thing than it is actually consuming the cast. Borg Shop said, "Hey guys, either of you guys going to play Civilization 7 when it comes out? I'm personally the most excited for it than any game in the last several years. Good for you, Borg Shop." No.
I'm not, no.
I appreciate the Civ games and 4X strategy in general. I've tried to get into it a few times in my life, but I just can't. I can't do it. It's definitely one of those genres that you turn it on, you start playing, and then you look at the clock and 19 fucking straight hours has gone by and you didn't realize what happened. Like, that's kind of what it's like. So I can appreciate why somebody would be very excited about 7. And then there's also Ara or whatever, which I think is the other one that is coming out for Xbox or whatever. That's also like a Civ 4X that some people are interested in. So it's people be eating good in the 4X space. Blainer just saw Sonic 3 the movie and remembered my first Sonic game that was Sonic CD on the PC. Wow, that's an interesting point of entry. The question is, did you guys play any of the Sonic games when you were little, and which ones was your favorite of the Sonic games you played?
Sonic 2 was my favorite only because I never really played many Sonics after that. So I remember I got a Sega Genesis. That was when I was living in British Columbia. We spent a Christmas there, and I got the Sega Genesis, and I remember it so vividly because at the time we were living in a motel. Of all things. And I remember getting it. Well, we didn't do Christmas in the motel. We did Christmas at my aunt and uncle's house, who lived in and still do live in Victoria. But I remember hooking up the Sega when we got back to the motel And I mean, dude, it was one of those dingy ass motels too, like the ones that you see in the movies where it's like a complex, like the one that we stayed in when we were in California.
Yeah, it's like a roadside motel, the multi-story kind of C-shaped.
Exactly, it's got 2 stories. Yeah, it's got 2
drug
stories.
Dealers. Yeah.
Yeah, this one wasn't C-shaped, but this one was like, yeah, I still remember it. But
the doors go to the outside is the key feature of any motel. Yes.
That's literally what it was. And yeah, I do remember that. So I got the Sega and that was the Sonic game that I played extensively. In fact, I still have it. Not the same copy, but I do have a copy of it up there.
I'm
not a big Sega guy.
No, I actually owned a Sega Genesis. That was the second console I owned after the Nintendo Entertainment System. I owned a Sega Genesis. And then I went from there, I skipped over to the N64 after. But on the Genesis, I had a few games. Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3. So I played all 3 of them. And 3D Blast. I had Sonic 3D Blast, which is one of the like dark, the black swan of the early Sonic games, Sonic 3D Blast. I would say 2 was also probably my favorite. But honestly, as bad as it is, I played a lot of 3D Blast. And one of my core memories of early, young Adam playing video games was, and I probably told this story before, but there is a sequence of buttons that you can press when you boot up 3D Blast that brings up like a cheat menu thing and allows you to fuck around, do a whole bunch of shit. I had no idea that it existed, but one day I was booting it up, and when with those old controllers where the buttons were basically almost flat to the fuck, you just kind of run your fingers over buttons and shit, and you're just like fucking around with the controller. You know what I mean? You're just like running your thumbs over the shit. Without any knowledge that fucking thing existed, I accidentally did whatever combination of boot up plus button combo to bring that screen up when I booted up 3D Blast, and young me was like,
"You're like, what? Did I just
enter the Matrix? What the fuck?
Yes, you did.
The fuck just happened?" And I remember being like, "Holy shit!" And I spent so much time like analyzing the screen. I was like, and of course back then there's no internet, there's nobody to really fucking tell. Like I might have told like maybe Brian at some point or whatever the fuck, but like I was in the room by myself. I was like, "Holy shit!" This is going. I was so excited about it. Whatever. And I remember. Like, so I turn on some toggles or whatever and I start playing the game. And the next time I boot it up, obviously the screen doesn't come back up. And I remember for like weeks randomly trying to get it to happen. And I never fucking got it to happen again. And it was only when I got older and obviously the internet was around for a while at this point, it came to my mind and I was like, wait a minute, I got to look this bitch up.
And there it was.
And there it was. I was like, you fucking got to be kidding me. That's an actual thing. Right. And there you go.
That's dope.
Because I got older and at some point I thought I was hallucinating some core
just made
memory.
Yeah.
Like I just invented it in my mind. Like you come up with shit that happens when you're a kid. And I was like, did I take shrooms and just hallucinated some shit? And I was like, no, that actually happened. There you go.
That's cool.
So that would be my choice as well. Sonic 2 is still probably the one. Oh boy. Okay. All right. I know this is getting long in the tooth, but we gotta wrap this up.
Wrap this up.
So we can do very short answers to both these. I just don't want to leave these poor bastards in the dust because they're the only 2 left, and it would be kind of awkward to leave them behind. So real quick from Jubinator, if you had to pick a Brood War StarCraft 2 Terran unit as a sibling. So we did pets last time. Now we have siblings from Terran units. Who are you picking as a sibling, as a unit?
From Brood War?
Brood War or StarCraft 2.
Oh, or StarCraft 2. As a sibling.
Man.
Oh, man.
You know what? I always liked the sound of the Wraith voice actor in Brood War. So I'm going with the Wraith. Get a fly boy for a sibling. That's
what I'm doing?
Top Gun shit.
I'm gonna go with a medevac. Can pick me up, fly me around, heal me up when I'm hurting.
Good choice.
It just seems like a good companion, like somebody that you want in your corner.
I like
support unit.
It's a good choice. It's a good choice. Last one, and this is going to sound like there's a really long answers to this, but I think they're relatively short in the grand scheme of things. But I think it's kind of important for people to talk about as for our age group and maybe younger. Thor's a lot says there are two different schools of thought at the moment. He says at the moment, but in reality, this has been the same two schools of thought for a very long time, like decades, many decades. In terms of investing or debt management, one insists on getting rid of debt as soon as possible and sacrificing everything until that goal is reached. The other champions paying with other people, in quotation marks, paying with other people's money all the time, ranking up credit score and or investing it in projects with potentially higher yields to avoid taxes. What would be your choice? Which are you more leaning towards? And this is interesting because you and I represent two
different
totally
spectrums?
different spectrums of, not in terms of probably how we think, because we probably think exactly the same, but there are different strategies based on where you currently are in terms of your financial situation. You might have to take one of these schools before moving into the other school more effectively, or at least with less risk. But I'll let you go ahead and discuss your thoughts.
Well, this is not financial advice, but
No, as usual.
I will tell you my philosophy. It's a little bit of column A and column B.
As everything in life.
Yeah. So, for example, I do have millions of dollars in debt, millions, with an S, and not like 2 million, millions. And it doesn't stress me out. It doesn't freak me out or anything because, it's tied up in real estate and those buildings and or properties basically make it so that it's the debt is serviced, and then there's some on top. So in one way, somebody might freak out. Like some people may freak out and say, "Oh no, that's too much risk." And hey, everybody has their own personal level of risk. You can go the Dave Ramsey route and have zero debt and owe nobody anything except for the mortgage of your house, or maybe not even that, and you can live that life. Typically, though, if you are doing it that way, and you're just paying everything off, and not using debt, not using credit cards, not using getting rental properties with mortgages, like Dave Ramsey will tell you to save up cash and buy a rental property in cash. That way, there's no risk or very little risk. What I think about, like what Dave Ramsey does, and I watch a lot of Dave Ramsey stuff, and I've incorporated quite a bit into my life. I think it's very smart to not have any high interest consumer debt, stuff that isn't serving you, and I think that there's a time and place to use things like credit cards or personal lines of credit, stuff like that. But I don't necessarily listen. At the end of the day, debt can either be used for good or for bad. It can go, and it doesn't matter. Just because you buy real estate and you think it's just good debt, that's not necessarily the case, because you can have bad real estate debt and not know what the fuck you're doing, and you're dealing with large numbers, hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, and or in some cases tens of millions of dollars, or hundreds of millions of dollars, or billions of dollars. Right? I mean, what debt does is debt allows you to accelerate your ability to be able to accrue wealth if used correctly. This isn't rocket science, but like, for example, if you buy $1 million house, just for an even number, if you buy $1 million house
and you put 20% down on it, you need $200,000, and then you need a loan of $800,000 to cover the rest, and then you would be paying mortgage payments for the next 30 years if you're in the United States, or 25 or whatever in Canada. And that's typically how it is. But the cool thing about that is you're basically using $200,000 to take control of $1 million asset. If you were to pay for it in cash, then you would need $1 million to control the $1 million asset. So, for example, if you use the $200,000 and you leverage the rest and you're paying interest, which is fine as long as your overhead, like if you're renting it out or if you're living in there, what you're doing though is you're building, for the most part. Again, this isn't a paint all thing, but I'm using generals here. You now, for 200,000, you're now in control of $1 million. Now, if that property goes up by 3% a year, right? Then that's what, $30,000 that you in theory have, and we're just talking appreciation, in theory have gained. So that 200,000 that you put in, you've leveraged 800. You own $1 million asset, but you only paid $200K to get it, and now you've made a $30,000 appreciation play. But the return for the money in and then money out is infinitely higher from a cash on cash return than what it would be if you used $1 million. Because with $1 million, yeah, you made a $30,000 gain, but your gain now is only 3%. But if you only put in 200,000, your gain is infinitely more, not infinitely, but it's substantially more, even though it's the same level of gain. And then with that $800,000 that you aren't actually, you're taking the loan, but say you actually had 800,000, you could go and buy, 4 more of the same $1 million property. So now you have $5 million or five $1 million properties at $200,000 each. And if they all go up 3% in a year, now you've made 30,000 times 5. But if you just own one, now you've only made the 30,000. Now I'm just talking about appreciation. So I'm just trying to, it's right that you can, but then again, there's that intangible thing that a lot of people don't talk about, and that's risk. Because now you are in control and you have debt and you have responsibilities. You have to service that debt, right? So sometimes people go out there and they do wild shit thinking that they're going to, get the deal of a century, and it ends up just bankrupting them, or they have to forfeit what they put into the deal, and it goes into foreclosure. And that's just from that side. So where I'm at is I don't touch bad debt. But I like good debt, and good debt for me is stuff that I understand. I know the risk. I have the reserves. I fully understand what I'm getting myself into. You have to stay under a certain level of debt service ratio. So the banks are pretty good now. Ever since there was a huge housing crisis where they were just giving money to anybody, and they still kind of do to some degree. But there's a lot more scrutiny and regulations on how much debt you can actually accrue as an individual, just because, the banks understand that people can get stupid. And then they also want to make money. So a long-winded way of saying I personally use debt. Tons of businesses out there use debt. Pretty much YouTube will use debt. Twitch uses debt. Amazon uses debt. Virtually almost every company out there uses debt, but it needs to be used strategically, and there needs to be a return off that debt for it to make sense. So that's how I feel personally about debt. But when it comes to bad debt, I don't do it. So say, for example, I need to say something needs to happen at the house. Like right now, my pool's fucked. My pool's been fucked for 2 years. But I also understand that pool, to get a new one and everything back, there's gonna be $40,000. It's insane. Now, I'm never going to go take out money out of my HELOC or put it on a credit card and then pay it off over the long term. I'm going to save up and pay cash to get that done when the time comes. Unfortunately, it's going to take me a long time to save up $40,000 in cash to go just splurge on a fucking pool that we don't need. So right now, it's just an ugly-ass pool in the backyard that's just dead. That my mother, every time she's over here, is like, when are you going to get that pool fixed? You got $40,000? Because I don't. I'm not willing to go into debt and have a payment to do it. Right? Even though I want to get the eyesore gone, but I'll get to it when I get to it. If that means we got to go to a public pool or we got to go to the beach or the lake or whatever to go swim, that's what the fuck we're going to do for now. It is what it is. It is what it is. Some people will be like, no, take money off the house. Like remortgage, we'll just pay it over, the next 25. I don't do that stuff. So, yeah, I'm a little bit of column A and column B. I'm very frugal and cheap on certain things, but then I'm like, go all out on other things. It's a long-winded answer, and I could go on. I could talk about this subject for fucking forever. Because at the end of the day, it is an individual thing. You have to look at your life, your situation, where you're at now, where you're expected or projected to be in the future, what level of risk you're willing to take. Some people are willing to take zero risk. They don't want the stress in their life. None. And yes, that may infinitely slow down their ability to create wealth or put themselves in a better financial position, but they're okay with that because they want to be able to sleep at night. They don't want to have to, owe everybody everything. You get a paycheck and then you got a car payment and you got a credit card payment. You got the other credit card payment. You got a line of credit payment. You got a mortgage payment. You got a cell phone payment. You got a internet payment. You got some people, like, I hate all of it. When I go to the gym, anywheres, I never do payments. Ever. I want a gym membership, I'll buy a full year up front. There ain't no direct deposit. Disney Plus, full year up front. Netflix, full year up front. Fucking, I don't do this shit. I don't do the payments. If I can't afford to buy it straight up, I ain't buying it. I ain't taking a loan. I ain't taking no credit card. I'll use credit cards. Use credit cards every day for the points. But like the shit's got to get paid, once I'm, by the end of the week, the latest. But these are this is how I lived. And I grew up in a family that had very little to no money. Family never owned a house, ever. Still don't. My dad's remarried. They have a house, but she had the house before, he was even married. My mom still doesn't, she doesn't even want a house, but never owned a house. We were constantly in debt. I mean, we were on welfare a couple of times in my life. There's bankruptcies. I mean, money was always a really good or a bad thing in my house. It was never like a fucking, this is just something we talk about. It was either used as a weapon or it was used as a way to buy acceptance or buy things to make you happy for a moment. So the way I grew up around money was very, it wasn't a great relationship. And when I turned into a young adult, I did all of the dumb things. I got student loans. I blew all the fucking money on dumb shit and partying. I had credit cards that went into default. I had creditors calling my phone. I was that guy. And it wasn't until I go, okay, whoa, either I'm going to relive the shit that my parents went through or I need to fucking do something about it. So I just went, I'm done. And I was blessed enough, fortunate enough to be in an industry that like kind of boomed and I made, good money for a young person and I just wasn't stupid about it. And it was just steady. And that's been my philosophy. And it's not always perfect. There are things that I do even today that's like not a good financial decision at all. But like, you do something like you put enough things in place that like you can then afford to do some not so smart financial things. And that's it. I'll shut up.
Yeah. So I mean, I hold the same positions in terms of that the most important thing to remember with any of this stuff is that it's always individual. There's a reason why if you were to go in as somebody and have a financial advisor, and even with the understanding that they have a fiduciary responsibility to service you as a customer and not service their own pockets, the one of the first things they're going to do is sit down. They're going to give you a comprehensive series of questions really that determines your risk profile, and that is something that is applicable in all forms of this conversation, because everyone's risk profile, whether it's their own subjective risk profile based on just the questions asked, or it is entirely, or it's an objective risk profile, because you could have somebody that is a multimillionaire and their risk profile is tiny. They still, despite being a multimillionaire, still have a tiny risk profile. They do not want to take on unnecessary risk. You could have somebody that has almost no money and they're willing to take on buckets of risk, but from an objective perspective, a financial advisor is still going to plant you in probably a lower bracket of risk because you objectively cannot take that level of risk at your current financial state, whereas coincidentally, if or age, and the multimillionaire who could, they're just choosing not to. Those are two different ball games. A lot of people, especially young people, are going to be the latter group, even if they want to take on risk. They shouldn't or can't because of their age or because of their. Although the school of thought would be if you're younger, you can take the risk because you have more time to make up for it on the other end. But the idea is most young people don't have a lot of liquid anything to work with. They don't have a lot of collateral to go up against. They don't have things to draw upon, like in Mr. Black's instance, properties, as he discussed, drawing upon them as a basis to be able to put funds into other more debt into other places based on the fact that he has collateral the bank can look at and say, okay, you have this is the value of this, we can give you this as a result. So it's all very individual in both of those regards. What is another piece of the puzzle here that what hasn't been explicitly talked about is the idea of inflation in general. Something that throws a really big wrench into this whole thing that then will make people feel like they need to be even riskier, perhaps to some degree, or flip and try to and in the opposite be even more hyper sensitive and want to hoard everything like a dragon, is intense inflationary periods, which we are currently in the midst of. And if you're a millennial in your 30s, you already went through this during your money-making period 15 years ago. This is round 2 of extreme inflationary, circumstances for macroeconomic forces. When you're in situations like that, it's very difficult to walk the line between the knowledge that you might have if you've listened to enough audiobooks or read a couple of books on finance, or personal finance, where if inflation's that bad, the last thing you want to do is sit on a whole bunch of money in a bank account because it is actively losing its value, money or value of that money over time. But then you have to take into consideration how much money do you have. It's nice to think that, I should just go spend it because it's worth money now. It's going to be worth less the more it sits there, but you still
invest it.
You still have to survive. You still have to have some level of liquidity available to you, which is the lower income and even whatever's left of the middle income class. It's the trap that they get stuck in, and the trap has gotten bigger and bigger because the inflation has gotten steeper and steeper, faster and faster. Inflationary periods historically, don't necessarily just fucking explode and fuck everyone in the ass with the exception of like the Great Depression. Yeah. But now it's like every decade we've got some new thing fucking you for 25% of the money that you have sitting in any kind of savings, or anything that is not actively accruing some money. And it's gotten to the point where it's very difficult, even if you know what you're doing and you have the money to do it, to outpace inflation in some instances. Because the typical, put a bunch of money in your typical stock market investments, whether you're talking about funds or otherwise, there's not a lot of funds that outpace the fucking inflation that happened here in the last few years. It's just not. People were losing money one way or the other. So that's something to keep in mind as well, is that you have to be careful to not overcorrect in either direction during times of inflation. You see your money losing value. You have to be careful not to want to spend all of it, whether it's in investments or otherwise, And you also don't necessarily want to fucking pocket the whole thing and sit on it because you're scared that it's going to go away because everything has gotten so expensive whenever you just, buy a carton of fucking milk or eggs or some shit and it's 3 items for $97 at the fucking grocery store.
Yes, true.
So it's a real bitch. That's a real wrench. And so the key component here is, again, it's all completely 100% individual. And the defining factor amongst all of this is that if you don't have the time, which lots of people just don't, if you don't have the time to invest in learning in great detail everything that you should know before you start making these types of weaponizing debt maneuvers, you need to find somebody to do it for you who specializes in doing that shit. It's going to mean that you make a little less money because you're going to be paying them a little bit to do this. But if you don't have the time, at least up front, and maybe eventually in time you learn.
Mm-hmm.
But what Mr. Black just talked about in what felt like, it was a 10-minute period, he could talk for hours about it, is years of hands-on experience afforded to him based on working for himself in an environment where he could choose to learn about these things and interact with them. Lots of people are in a spot right now where you're working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, trying to keep shit going, and you see the train leaving. You're like, I want to get on that train. I know I should be on that train. I don't know where the fuck to buy the ticket. I could just hop on. Mm-hmm. It's probably not the way to do it. I could try. But you see it, and that's a really scary thing for a lot of people that are in that position. And so what I would strongly suggest,
educate yourself.
Is educate yourself, but if you can, don't wait to go. Don't be ashamed to go and get a financial advisor. Shop around. Go to multiple.
I had one for a while. Yeah.
Go around. Multiple. Talk to many. Find somebody that you gel with that understands you, understands what your goals are, and can help you. And then use them to learn, and then use the time that you eventually get to learn more. And if you can divorce yourself from them in the future, feel free to. But you don't have to. You can also just keep paying them a percentage to do their thing. The important thing is when you see the train, if you can, make some attempt to get on the train. You might be sitting at the back of that bitch.
That's all right.
It's better than not being on it at all and running after it as you see the train getting further and further and further away from you, which is how a lot of young people are feeling right now when it comes to owning a
house. Yeah, it's damn near impossible. It's
an apartment.
Yeah,
and anything.
And it's because it's what you said. Inflation is killing money, and then the printing of money is not good. As the economy goes to fucking shit, which it's funny because the stock market just keeps going up and up and up and up and up.
And they say, everything's great, and the average person's like,
bitch,
well, for who?
It just means the rich are getting richer because it's like, how did you not make a bunch of money? Did you not see the stock market went up 30% over the last year? Well, bitch, I got no money in the fucking stock market because I'm fucking broke. I have no money left over because inflation, everything's killing me. You save up for a down payment on a house, and next thing you know it, you're like, okay, I'll save up 20%. Then you realize I ain't never going to be able to save up 20%. So I need to get a first-time home buyer's loan. All right? Okay, fine. Then you save up. You're like, okay, I'll save up $15,000 or $20,000 to get my foot in the door. By the time you save the $15,000, $20,000, that same house that you were looking at, you need 30.
Yeah.
So in order for you to get there, you quite literally need to call up mom or dad.
Yeah.
Or you need to go on OnlyFans and literally fucking get piped in order to get a quick fucking $10,000 to get the difference, and just to make the money to get into the fucking house. Dude, it's wild out there, man.
And that's the shittiest part. And I really feel, I'm just like, if you said, Adam, where are you on this spectrum? So
you got a house. I mean, you're already ahead of the game.
We're in it. but I sympathize because the craziest part, Em and I, that train we're talking about here, if we were talking about houses, Em and I just got on at the last possible moment of sane jump on the train. We did. And even then, when we sat down, we knew that when we did it, in the short term, it would be insanely fucking thin for a long... We're still thin now. We ain't out the bushes. It's still thin. When...
Thank God those interest rates have been coming down. Holy fuck.
I mean, it's crazy. And we don't have a child yet or anything. We're hoping to have one this year sometime. But like, you know, we just... And again, think of all the things that fell in place. And this is why I always sympathize with people. We had familial help. My family's not wealthy, but they gave us a couple of bucks to help us, you know, get the ball moving for renovations. We had all the down payment and everything done. But when it came to trying to finish the house, because the longer it went, and this was, again, Dad and I quit my job for a year because I could. For Dad, who, bless him, is able to do all this shit, for us, for a year to get the house livable.
Yes.
And this is also while I'm renting to my aunt in the home. This ain't the whole house, ain't ours.
Yeah.
We're offsetting this by renting to like a third of the house.
Smart though.
To my aunt.
Smart. Yep.
And it's the only, and we didn't even buy the most expensive fucking house. We snuck in and stretched ourselves like Stretch fucking goddamn Armstrong, and we're still out there. You let go, my arms might not fucking
You're
come
like
back.
Spider-Man on the train where he's like,
yeah, just Tobey Maguire constipated. And that's it's crazy. And to think about it, Marcel and I combined we're bringing home still to this day somewhere between 180 and 200,000 pre-tax a year. And we're Tobey Maguiring our shit at the front of a fucking
Yeah, bro. It's crazy out
while
there, man.
we're renting a third of the house to offset a third of the mortgage.
Them Canadian pesos be hitting different.
I'm going to say that one more time in case somebody may have missed that in all the screen. A third of the mortgage. This ain't a thing where the rent is paying the mortgage. And that's not because she's getting a special aunt rate.
No.
She's paying
the
rate.
Yeah.
And it's a third. So I really do truly sympathize with anyone in the age bracket of fucking 18 to 35 in the midst of all of this being told by a bunch of people. And when you go on social media, how many goddamn financial fucking godforsaken gurus, if I see that, I don't know if it's who's the guy that like brings people onto his show.
And cuts them up.
They do this voluntarily apparently. And they're like,
and he just cuts
a
up all their
Mercedes,
shit.
and it's a $7,800 a month payment. And he's like, and he's become Steve Harvey on fucking Family Feud, where everything is show me penis, and it's just Steve Harvey face.
Yeah.
It's that, except they come on the show and go, I bought a fucking G-Wagon.
Oh, how much money do you make a year? $45,000. What? G-Wagon? Did you get that? What?
So
yeah. My car payment's only $1,600 a month. I live at home though, so it's all good. What the fuck?
So you see, but you've got all that kind of content here. So people are on seeing all this shit, and they know. So it's somebody with a head on their shoulder. They know what they're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
They know all the steps that they should be doing. They might even be doing all of those things, and they still get they're still up short. Like the whole idea of don't go to Starbucks, don't buy a Netflix subscription, don't whatever the fuck.
I'm not one of those guys. Like
I know you're not. But there's a lot of people that's what they're still being told. But they're still.
But that's just dumb.
They're just out there getting fucked.
That's I mean, dude, if there's somebody that's telling you to, start making coffee at home, and I mean, I agree, going to Starbucks every day is probably not the smartest thing to do because that shit's expensive.
Yeah.
But I mean, shit, if you go to Tim Hortons and you spend fucking $2.30 on a medium double, right? And you gotta cut that out of your life. Those little tiny small joys.
Life once in a while,
exactly.
for fuck's sake.
Yeah. At the end of the day, coffee isn't the thing that's killing you. It's either your income, you need to make more money, or B, it's your habits. It's your spending habits, right? And believe it when I tell you, it's highly unlikely it's your coffee habit that is like or your Netflix subscription. It's highly unlikely. Can you cut those things out? Sure. I mean, if you want to go fucking naked and go bare bones, like, go for it. But do you also want to be miserable? It's like somebody that's trying to lose weight, right? Say you're overweight. Say you're really obese. Like, say you're 100 pounds overweight. Exercising every day, cutting out every piece of junk food, no pops. You're only drinking water. You've got a personal trainer. You're taking all the right supplements. You're doing bro. You're gonna crash and burn in 1 week tops, and you're gonna feel like shit. And you're gonna hate your life. But if you just slowly start to get up and walk, exercise, even if it's a few days a week, start small. Change the programming in your brain, the way that you do things. You're gonna see a huge difference. You're not gonna get there fucking overnight, man. This whole thing, it's a marathon. This is something that, like, you got to change the fabric of how you think and operate on a lifetime scale. We're not talking, I'm just gonna cut out coffees this year. Like, what the fuck is that gonna do for you?
Well, it's
you
funny,
know what I mean?
Because Em will do that kind of stuff sometimes. It'll be funny. So I'll go upstairs, right? And in the kitchen, she'll have just washed the dishes or whatever. And I see in the drying station, the drying rack area, I'll see like a Ziploc bag drying. And I'll be like, where did the Ziploc bag come from? She's like, oh, that's the Ziploc bag that the frozen chicken was in earlier that we took out. I said, you're telling me you washed the Ziploc bag that the frozen raw chicken was in earlier? Were you plan on reusing this bag again? She's like, yeah, we got to save some money. I said, I like the idea, but listen.
A for point. Bags. A for F for the
Ziploc
effort.
Bags.
Ain't changing.
That ain't the reason why we're out here, okay? The Ziploc bag ain't the reason why we're out here down bad in 4K, all right? It ain't because 2 or 3 times a week you get a fucking matcha latte at Starbucks. That ain't the reason why we're out here. We don't go out for dinner. We don't do shit. We're talking about earlier today, ordering a pizza and playing Scrabble. That's our life.
There you go.
We're out here for different reasons, all right? You're working a hard-ass fucking job that I couldn't do. And I'm making better money than I could at basically anything that isn't being some sort of fucking middle management somewhere in this city. I don't know what else we can do except for just wake up every morning and keep putting one fucking goddamn foot in front of the other. And that's how I'm going to end this little piece for me is, as I discussed earlier in a different thing about me, what I've learned when I'm older compared to younger. I really struggle. I lose sleep over shit like this. Very easy, especially with social media now, but even back then, before social media was huge, it had the same problem, to get doomsday about things. Because the reality is, whether you want to hear this or not, it's pretty fucking doomsday out there. I'm not going to lie. Shit's fucked. The shit's fucked.gif, that's life right now out there. Shit is fucking nuts. It is simultaneously, theoretically, the best time to be alive from the perspective that you're probably going to live a little longer than people that came before you. But to operate within the society you've been born into right now, shit's fucked. It is a fucking 5-alarm fire unless you were born into immeasurable wealth at this point in time. And a lot of like the get rich quick schemes or the I got the entrepreneurial spirit shit, that happened in the earlier days of the internet and whatnot. That's all fucking, that train been gone. That ain't here anymore. The idea of becoming a content creator to play Fortnite and make that shit dead. The market is flooded. It is fucking rough. The minimum wage has not gone up in like fucking 30 years in the state. Shit's fucked. However,
and when it does, it's like 30 cents in a dream.
However,
crazy, bro.
If you actually constantly remind yourself of that, and it's not that you should disassociate from fucking reality, that's not healthy. What you need to learn to do is accept that it is a bit of a fucked up situation, but understand that there are still, as meager of the ways that there are, ways to get yourself into a better position than you were yesterday. That doesn't mean you wake up one day and you're the next person on YouTube making a YouTube short about my wife or my girlfriend left me, but at least now I own a Porsche, which is a weird subsection of YouTube, by the way, for some reason that exists. I have no idea why the fuck it does, but it exists.
It's better. I can confirm. It's better if you still have the wife and the Porsche.
And the Porsche? Yeah.
It's better.
You're not going to do that, but... You know, there's a methodology from exercise that I'll leave you all with that I think Jeff even almost hinted at here to some degree earlier. The best mentality to have is if you go to the gym. When you go to the gym, your only goal should be you're doing a tiny, fucking nearly imperceivable amount more than you did the last time you walked through the gym doors. I'm talking, you're out there doing curls for the girls, for the sun's out, guns out. Last time you did 8 reps. This time you're doing 9. 1 rep.
Shit. Yeah, 8.5 maybe. Let's get up there.
Maybe you're going, shit, and at one point you're just bending backwards, pretending you're getting the weight higher.
Yeah.
That's all. That's it. Because the next time you get in the gym, 8.5 becomes 9. Unlike your dick, that can't happen. But curls, we could do that. And then it's 9.5.
Ooh, yeah.
And then it's 10.
Ooh.
But in a tiny window, you look at that progress and it's easy to get discouraged. You're like, fuck me, dude. I just put another $120 into my account. Or like an investment, whatever the fuck. $120 this month. That's nothing. That's literally nothing. But you know what $120 is? More than zero. And you have to have that mentality and just keep fucking snowballing that shit over time. Because if you focus, like Jeff was doing the analogy of being 100 pounds overweight and you try to do everything all at once, you will fucking crash out. It'll be ugly. You'll be in the streets naked, screaming at people. Be fucking weird. Don't do it. Just focus a little bit every time. And the beauty about money, compound interest. If you only learned one thing about investing of any kind,
eighth wonder of the world
is fucking incredible. Incredible. Just put a little bit in and you'll be surprised. You're like, oh shit, fuck me. Fucking hell. That's starting to actually turn into some shit. It snowballs. The old adage, the first million is the hardest to make, is true. It is fucking miserable. But the idea is once you've gotten to that first million, it snowballs. To get from 1 million to 10 million after you're at 1 is so much easier than going from 0 to 1 million.
One day.
Incremental.
That day isn't today.
No, but we are going
we gotta
to go
compound the fuck out of here.
Yeah, we gotta compound
get
some
this
interest in Starcraft.
Yeah.
And so
we got co-op to do today.
Oh fuck! Oh my god!
Yes, bro.
Bro, I gotta say, I knew it was gonna happen. You know, when we were doing it's the end screen up here, so we were committed to ending this fucking thing. But I knew it was gonna happen eventually. Like when we put up the first the first Maximus Black Says video goes up. Everyone's fucking jazzed. Like, oh yeah.
They're like, yeah.
Here we go. Yeah. The second one goes up. Like, oh shit. He won a game?
Oh,
okay. And the third game comes up and it's like, he's not really getting any better. Because he's only playing one game a week. And then the last,
that'll do it.
And then this one goes up today, and like as it's going game to game, the number of comments that are like, "Why are you posting this content on the channel?" keeps going up and up, and I'm like, "Bro, what do you want? What do you expect?"
We committed to it, man.
Yes. In it for the content. It's like some people actually believed that when we did Maximus Black Says that I was going to carve out like an hour of my life a day to get my hotkeys back in order and to get back into the group. No, bro, that ain't it.
Nah, bro, that ain't happening.
No.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
We were out here to watch that dumpster fire is what we were out there for. And we got more dumpster fires of our own to go do right now. And so we're going to go do it. And so until next week, ladies and gentlemen, stay safe out there. Have a good one. And peace.
Peace.